Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto trained properly from beginning part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. It was October 10th, and an intense evil was present in the Leaf Village. In the strongest shinobi village, the great nine-tailed fox, the Kyuubi laid waste to the village while the greatest ninja of the time, possibly all time, prepared for its defeat. Minato Namikaze smiled wearily at the seal he had finally completed. It had taken 3 whole days to finish the scroll that was going to give him the power to stop the most powerful of demons. He glanced around his office in the Hokage's tower, his eyes finally resting on the moon that shone brightly past the dark clouds and into the office through the open windows. I wonder how much longer it will take for Naruto to get here? He asked himself curiously. He is what I always wanted him to be, a hero. I just wish I would be able to see him grow up. His thoughts filled his heart with guilt. The guilt of failing his son. Just then Jiraiya entered the office, the precious Hokage following behind him holding the baby Naruto. Minato, I think you're making a mistake. If you sacrifice yourself, Naruto will have no family left. He will be hated and treated with disdain for the rest of his life. The third soft voice was rough, mimicking HS tone while his words tore at Minato's judgment. Minato sighed, and held out his arms, taking Naruto for the first time into his arms. It is a sacrifice only I can make. His tone was melancholy and confident. The fourth turned, it is time for me to go. It isn't possible for Jiraiya to understand what I have to do, but the Sandaime knows exactly why I'm doing this. He should support me. A Hokage must sacrifice his life before any of his subordinates. Wait. I have one last thing to tell my greatest student. Jiraiya exclaimed, seeing Minato begin to leave. Minato turned only for his forehead to connect with Jiraiya's open palm. Seal of consciousness. Minato wavered for a second before falling to the ground. Naruto already in Sarutobi's arms. Jiraiya picked up the completed scroll and walked back to his sensei. Goodbye, Minato. The third whispered, vanishing along with Jiraiya in a cloud of smoke. Kakashi dodged a claw that sent the trees behind him flying. I can't believe sensei is doing this. To be without Lord Hokage is unbelievable. Fall back. Kakashi barked to some Chunin who were attempting to finish the beast. Chunin ignored the orders and all together fired several different Suden jutsus. The water smashing into the Kyuubi with tremendous force, causing the great demon to stumble back. For a moment the Chunin were ecstatic, believing they alone could defeat the demon. Get out of there! Kakashi screamed, but it was too late. With one tail the Kyuubi slammed the Chunin back hundreds of yards where they lay dead. The fucking idiots are not slowing the beast down but giving it less of a task to kill us. At this rate we won't hold out until he gets here. Kakashi looked desperately for his teacher in the hysteria, but was forced to give his undivided attention to the gigantic fox. Kakashi decided to propose a strategic retreat to the commander in charge when he saw Gambunta appear in a giant cloud of smoke. Finally, thank God for you, Hokage-sama. Kakashi sighed, not realizing that the Hokage was not on the Toad Summon's back, but still in his office. Jiraiya finished the seal, and in a moment they, Jiraiya and the third, had risen stories to the top of the great Toad Summon. Hello, Jiraiya, long time no see, Gambunta said, hiding the shock of seeing the most powerful of demons before his eyes. Hello, Gambunta, Jiraiya said, automatically. Let us end this beast's reign of terror, the third said, speaking to Jiraiya, who nodded in return. The Kyuubi turned his head toward the Toad boss, a look of amusement surfacing on the demon lord's face. Time for some fun. Sarutobi raised the scroll, opening it up and then turning around. Goodbye, Jiraiya. I'm sorry I never treated you as well as I did Orochimaru, but now, I have to say thank you for never betraying me. The third said the last words he would ever say, tears streaming down his face. Goodbye, sensei. I'll give your regards to Tsunade, thanks for everything. With the final words that had been needed to said spoken, the Sandaime slammed down the seal and completed the hand signs necessary to complete the seal, opening communication with the god of death. The Sandaime watched in awe as the death god appeared. Jiraiya, on the other hand, could not see anything and was forced to guess at what his sensei was seeing. The Kyuubi began to charge as its instinct told him to stop the jutsu before it was too late, but unfortunately for the great demon the sealing was complete. The Sandaime fell only for Jiraiya to catch him, while Naruto began to scream in both pain and confusion. The ninjas who had been participating in the battle were equally confused as the giant fox disappeared. Jiraiya created a clone to pick up Naruto, and proceeded to sling the eldest Sarutobi's arm around his neck. Both Jiraiya jumped off the summon and used Shunshin no Jutsu arrive at the Hokage's tower. The yandere awoke where he had fallen. He looked around and the first thing he spotted was Jiraiya lying on his favorite couch drinking sake. The toad Sannin was obviously very drunk. The second thing he saw was Naruto cuddled in a blanket sleeping on Jiraiya's lap. Minato quickly stood up and grabbed baby Naruto, who immediately awoke. Minato grinned foolishly. "Hey son, sorry to wake you, but I didn't want you to be on that crazy drunk's lap." He tilted Naruto so he could look at the red-faced Sannin. Naruto giggled as if understanding what his father had said. The Hokage then fell back onto the couch with Jiraiya. "This sucks," he said once Naruto had fallen back asleep. "I can't believe he's dead." Jiraiya nodded, before taking another swig of sake. Jiraiya began his thoughts spinning around his teacher's final words. The Hokage questioned, absent-mindedly staring at Naruto's sleeping form. "Never mind," Jiraiya whispered, standing up. "I'm gonna go." "Where?" the Hokage asked curiously, turning around to look at his sensei who was stumbling to the door. "Anywhere. I have to leave this village. I'll come back in a few years, okay?" Minato looked panicked. "Now? Of all times?" He sighed, his frustration subsiding. "So you're leaving me too? Well, come back in 5 years at least, okay? I'm going to need you to train Naruto." Jiraiya nodded, feeling the guilt of leaving Minato and Naruto. "I'll be the third to leave them today. I'm being selfish, I guess it can't be helped. I'm certainly not strong enough to stay sane in this village right now. Minato is tough, he'll get through it." Laughing loudly, Jiraiya didn't face Minato. He looked to the door ready to leave and not sure he could maintain his composure if he had to look Minato in the eyes. "Just don't die on me, alright?" Jiraiya waited for a moment to hear an answer. Minato chuckled. "You have yourself a deal." Jiraiya walked to the window and stepped out onto one of his lesser toad summons. Not saying a word, he vanished. Minato awoke to the sound of Naruto crying. Jumping up, he ran to the fridge where baby formula had been stockpiled for Naruto. Soon it would be time for him to explain the result of the battle to the entire village. And to be honest, he wasn't feeling up to the task. He sighed. "Well, Naruto, no matter the results, you will always have me." Naruto's eyes shone an underlying sense of comprehension which children 10 years older couldn't do. "You're special, Naruto," Minato whispered, causing Naruto to giggle. Finishing the bottle, Naruto smiled at his father, ready for anything. "Let's go, buddy," Minato said. The two walked to the top of the Hokage's building and looked at the masses of citizens who had already gathered. Creating a shadow clone to hold Naruto, Minato waved his arms, signaling for silence. Immediately the crowd hushed. "Citizens of Konoha," the yandere yelled. "The terrible beast that slew countless ninja has been defeated at a huge cost." The crowd nodded in silence. Almost everyone had lost a family member, and there was not a single person who hadn't lost a friend. We must never forget the ones who sacrificed themselves so that we are allowed to live on. But the true reason we're here is to acknowledge the two heroes, who in a joint effort defeated the beast with a single jutsu of overwhelming power. Not waiting for suspicion to grow, the fourth continued, "The third Hokage died sealing the terrible Kyuubi in my son Naruto." He paused and looked out, and to his displeasure he wasn't winning the crowd. "If I'm going to stop Naruto from being hated, I'll have to do it now, here at the beginning. Time for some improv. It is our duty to now continue the dying wish of the third and protect the one who guards you all from the Kyuubi's wrath. For if Naruto is not protected, he could be taken by those who would wish to free the beast." I have some of the crowd now. It seems I can't get all of it dash. But perhaps dash. No, I must lie dash. No, I can't kid myself. Lying is my only chance. Great people of Konoha, the Kyuubi's chakra will meld with Naruto's until he is an adult, when it will be fully melded. If he dies before all the chakra melds, the great demon will be released again. Not bad. Many of the citizens still won't like him, but at least no one will try and hurt him. Hopefully no one will try to see if that is statement by investigating the seal if they find out. Minato shook his head. Now is not the time to think about that. My family of Konoha, I have urgent matters to attend to now, but if you have any questions I will be happy to answer them at a later time. Then taking Naruto from the clone, he used to the seal in his robe to teleport away from the gossiping crowd and into his office. Falling back onto the couch, Minato sighed, golden locks of hair falling over his warm blue eyes. Naruto looked up at his father, his cheeks a rosy red and his eyes bearing an innocent curiosity. Minato reopened his eyes, looked down at Naruto. "I tried my best, Naruto. I just hope it was enough." Minato was having a terrible day. For the first time in 2 years, a ninja had died on a mission. For the other Hokage's, ninjas had died occasionally, but for the fourth it was an extremely rare occasion. Unlike the other Hokages, the fourth was extremely dedicated to not underestimating an enemy's strength and more than often overestimated the necessary ninjas for a task. He groaned his head against the desk. He had read the mission report so much it was burned into his head. It wasn't a C-rank mission but an A-rank. The men that were thought to be thugs were jounins who were running a store that was a front for drug sales. The group of enemies had been defeated at the cost of a loyal jounin's life. Minato sat praying a silent prayer when the door flew open, flying over his desk. "Hey, my favorite student, I hope you didn't miss me too much," sarcasm drenching the statement. The fourth smiled. "Well, at least Jiraiya is back." Jiraiya sent a guilty look towards Minato. "I came back to train the boy, but I also brought you a present." The fourth raised an eyebrow. Jiraiya wasn't one to give something of no consequence as a gift. Grinning like the senile old man he was, Jiraiya stuck his hand into his jacket and pulled out a small orange book. The yandere growled, "What have I told you about showing me that crap?" Jiraiya sighed. "I know. But you'd think you would have congratulated me for finishing my newest edition." "Give it up, Jiraiya. Why a first-rate ninja would waste his skills writing instead of teaching, I'll never understand." Jiraiya smirked. "Well, I'm off to get a drink, but I'll be back later for Naruto." Jiraiya turned around only to stop. "By the way, how much does Naruto know?" "Ninja-wise, you mean? Well, he is pretty talented as long as he guided in the right direction. He sometimes loses track of where he should be heading. Anyway, Naruto is talented in ninjutsu and taijutsu. But if you want to know his understanding, he understands the chakra system and he understands the transfer of chakra and flow very well. Unfortunately, the Kyuubi messes up his control a lot, but that was to be expected." Jiraiya nodded and lines formed themselves on his forehead. "How long have you been training him?" The fourth laughed. "Naruto's only known training since he was born. When he was littler, I explained chakra every day, it's built into his memory." Minato paused. "I'm not the greatest dad I know. I don't really know much besides my nindo and ninja life, but I've always given him everything he's needed." Jiraiya nodded skeptically. "I hope he is as talented as you. I have a reputation to keep up, you know. Plus, I'm thinking about becoming the record holder for training the most Kages." Minato looked up from his work, organizing his papers. "Well, if I'm correct, the current record is 2, and you only have 1. Who will your third be?" The Toad Sannin turned to go, rubbing the back of his head. "Well, I just thought while I trained Naruto I would teach him to be a ladies' man as well, to ensure an heir before I die. If you know what I mean." Minato stood up. "If you mean to turn my son into some whimsical pervert, you cannot teach him at all." "Alright, by the way, does he know that he's a container?" Minato flinched. "Well," he paused, trying to find a word to contain his frustration. He sighed, giving up. "Not exactly." Jiraiya gave his student an annoyed look. "Well, I'll work around that. Anyway, in a few months I plan to take him to the ocean to train. After all, the ocean is the best place to master the elements." He turned, hiding his grin. "Of course, there are other things to do at the beach." The fourth nodded, agreeing, looking at some confidential documents until he realized what his teacher had meant. He was about to look up, but he knew that the legendary pervert had already left. Naruto was sitting on a bench eating ice cream with 2 of his friends, Ino and Sakura. It was a nice warm fall day, and the leaves that kept falling enhanced the beauty in both the visual and spiritual aspects. Most ninjas accepted Naruto, if only for the fact that his father was the fourth. They all would give their lives for the fourth, and giving time to his son was an honor in itself. "Ino, you're mean!" Sakura shouted, wiping the ice cream that Ino had dripped on her arm off. Naruto watched the two quietly. Being around the 2 girls seemed to suppress his energy. He took his napkin and helped wipe the ice cream off Sakura's arm. Ino frowned. "Sorry, Sakura, I was just thinking about what we should do tomorrow." Sakura turned to look at her mom, who stood 20 feet away talking to Ino's mother. "Well, Ino, I think I'm going shopping with my mom." Her voice seemed to drift off as she turned to look at a boy who was watching them. Her attention left the group and fastened itself on the boy. He was leaned back against a maple tree looking up into the sky. "Anyway," Ino concluded, "you're lucky you get to go shopping." "Sakura? Were you even listening to me?" She huffed in annoyance. "What are you looking at?" Naruto turned, still licking the wet ice cream that was melting and dripping down the cone faster than Naruto could slurp it up. He looked at the boy and studied his features from afar, first looking at his pineapple-shaped hair before noticing a figure approach from behind him. Naruto got up the bench and began walk toward the boys, Ino following only a step behind. "Wait up, Naruto, I know them, that's Shikamaru and Chuji." Sakura followed behind the 2 cautiously. "Hi guys. Ino bellowed into Shikamaru's face. I have two people for you to meet. She gestured toward Naruto, and then Sakura. This is Namikaze, Naruto, and the pink-haired girl is Haruno, Sakura. Nice to meet you, I'm Chuji and he's Shikamaru. Naruto bowed slightly and Chuji in response did the same, if only a bit more awkwardly. His dad is the Hokage. Ino bragged to her friends. Shikamaru waved slightly. Sakura waved back and hid behind Naruto. What are you doing? Naruto asked Shikamaru curiously. Watching the clouds. Shikamaru responded. Naruto waited perplexed to see if he would hear another answer. When he didn't, he was forced to ask the question on his mind. Why? Shikamaru sighed. If you don't like looking at the sky, then you can't possibly understand. Naruto looked up at the sky and waited. After a few minutes he was sitting next to Shikamaru watching the clouds while Ino, Chuji and Sakura were doing the same, but every now and then glancing back at Naruto to see his reaction. Naruto broke the silence first. Looking at the sky is nice, but wanting something you can't attain, and still longing after it seems silly. Shikamaru stared stupefied at Naruto, whose stoic expression never left his face. Then just as Ino was about to ask what the two were talking about, a man with long great white hair stepped up to Naruto. Hey kid. Jiraiya said, pointing at Naruto, you're coming with me. Naruto pushed himself off the tree and stood looking up at the old man, now only an arm's length away. Who are you? I am the legendary Jiraiya, the great toad Sannin. His dance was well received by the children except for Shikamaru, who snickered. Oh, you're that guy Dad was talking about. The bad guy who is going to train me. Jiraiya turned away for a moment, his head propped up by his forearm. He said I was bad to his son? Well, I suppose that's me, though I'm not bad, so don't worry. Dad said you'd deny it? Jiraiya murmured some curses under his breath before forcing a smile and holding it as he told Naruto to follow him. Naruto waved goodbye to his friends before walking off. Naruto followed Jiraiya until they got to a grassy open field. Well, Naruto, let's talk for a little while. How much do you know about me? Well, I know you were Dad's teacher and that you have been gone for a long time working. And that you're a very good ninja but bad at other things, like being nice to ladies. Jiraiya nodded, he had expected as much. Well, why don't you tell me a little about yourself? Naruto nodded. Well, I'm almost 8. I study with my dad a lot and it's not fun. I like my dad, but he's busy a lot. I also like ramen and ice cream. Well, training is fun sometimes and I come to the park a lot to play with Sakura, Ino and other kids who come here like Hinata and Kiba sometimes. Jiraiya at first interpreted studying as fun, but as Naruto had clearly stated he liked training, he wasn't sure what studying implied. What do you do for studying? Well, I read and write and copy ninja scrolls onto new scrolls. Oh dear, that sounds terrible. What do I have to do with you? Jiraiya gave Naruto a pitying look. You don't have to do anything with me, and believe me, unless you really want to train, I won't teach you. Why not? Dad said you would. Naruto asked, more confused than offended. Well, I only train great ninja that hope one day to be the strongest there is. You train the best ninjas in the world? Naruto's eyes grew in surprise and wonder. You bet, and if you train with me you'll be the best, but I don't train just anyone. What do I have to do for you to train me? Naruto asked, leaning up against Jiraiya. Well, you have to pass a test. The test will judge your talent and dedication. In the first part of the test I'm going to test your taijutsu skill and both your genjutsu and ninjutsu ability. The second part of the test is harder. You must make a technique of your own in which you have 1 month to do it. Naruto waited before asking, when is the test? Jiraiya chuckled, the first test is whenever in the next week you want it to be, and the second test will be due at the end of the month. Naruto sat thinking, is it hard to make a technique? Well, yes, but it depends on how good the technique. Naruto took some more time to think before making his decision. I'll take the first test in 3 days. Very well, I'll come find you in 3 days. Naruto stood up. Now are we going to train? Nope, the next time I'll see you will be in 3 days. In the meantime I'm going to do some research. Naruto left to go home, his thoughts running over what the test could possibly be like. He strode silently through the field practicing his stealth. I wonder if I could get Dad to help me train. He exited the field of tall grass and passed the wooden gate painted white and headed to the Hokage Tower. Naruto was going to ask his father for some help on his taijutsu form when he saw Anko, the craziest jounin in existence, kissing his dad. Naruto wasn't upset at the sight, rather intrigued and confused. He watched the scene unfold for a few seconds when he noticed his father was resisting. "Dad, what are you doing?" Naruto asked, confused. Minato had tried to be gentle in his effort to remove Anko from him, but when he heard Naruto's voice it pushed him too far. He grabbed her shoulders and forcefully pushed Anko off of him and onto the floor. "What were you thinking?" he asked angrily, waiting for an excuse which would never come. "Boy, that was worth it," Anko said, getting up and then walking past Naruto, muffling his hair, and then jumping out the window. Climbing off the roof, Naruto swung from the edge of the shingled roof into his dad's office. He had just been practicing his chakra control for the test. It had been 2 days since Jiraiya had left, giving Naruto one last day of training. Naruto looked around to see the room empty, the papers right where his dad had left him when he went out, 2 hours earlier. Naruto looked around, searching for something that might hint where his dad was. Minato had been coaching Naruto for the past 2 days mainly on genjutsu and taijutsu, and Naruto now wanted to try ninjutsu, his favorite of the 3. He searched for a few minutes before giving up and heading out to practice on the training ground where Jiraiya and he had first talked. He strode out of the building heading at a brisk pace, wondering why his dad hadn't at least told the guards where he was going. He shook the thoughts of and ran the rest of the way to the training grounds. He pushed the wooden gate open and began to trudge up the slight hill, pushing the tall grass to the side with each step. Naruto was halfway up the hill when he heard voices. Patiently he tried to listen, but their voices were too far off, so Naruto got down on his stomach and crawled to the top of the hill overlooking a fully vegetated field. The voices were clearer now and easily recognizable to Naruto. One was his father, and the other was Jiraiya. "Minato." "Jiraiya, what do you mean you're giving the boy a test? You already agreed to be his teacher." Jiraiya sent his student an annoyed look. Both ninjas knew someone was overlooking them, and both, having seen Naruto come to the training ground, predicted it was him. "Fine, Hokage, if that's the way you want to play." "Well, you know Minato, he doesn't seem like he wants it enough. If he really wants it, he'll sacrifice himself, his time, his body, his soul. You know better than I that ninjas must have something they want to protect or something they want to prove. What does he have?" Minato grimaced at Jiraiya. He really hoped Naruto wasn't listening, because although he agreed with Jiraiya, he was worried Naruto would take it the wrong way. Naruto is too young to have someone to protect, and too young to want to prove something. Right now, he should train to one day have the power he needs to protect and serve. Jiraiya nodded. "If what you want is for Naruto to become my student, perhaps you should help him. After all, he is quite young, and guidance, no matter how little, is always appreciated." The light in the fourth's eyes seemed to cool, and the gleam of his blue eyes showed Jiraiya that Minato was thankful of his assistance. "Alright, I'm going off to help Naruto now, but I'm not done with you yet." Minato smiled at Jiraiya, who grinned back. "You'll have to find me first," the old man joked, walking past the fourth and right by Naruto and heading into the town. Naruto looked at his father before backing away until he couldn't be seen and then running off back to the Hokage's tower. Minato sat reflecting on the night 2 days back when Anko had kissed him. She hadn't realized it, but the kiss saddened him immensely. It reminded him of his wife, sadly enough so aggressive and demanding. His pain was not only for himself but for Naruto, and that only made the regrets worse. It made him feel guilty. He hadn't saved her life, but he was going to save the village. Minato sighed and looked up to the sky, watching the peaceful clouds roll by in the blue canvas. He walked to a wooded area and tried to accept the pain as his punishment, but his frustration got the better of him, and he slammed his arm into the tree to the right of him, obliterating its section he had hit and causing the top to slam into the ground. He lifted his head once and looked at the sky again, as if waiting for someone to tell him to stop acting like a fool. As if waiting for his wife to come yell at him. The yondaime then, in an attempt to get rid of the extra chakra, causing him to feel so much, he put his hand on the fallen tree. Reconstruction of life. He said the name of a technique he had been developing. The broken tree's bottom began to grow and be rebuilt, slowly at first but gradually gaining speed until every last leaf was present on the huge tree. The yondaime sighed. His frustration eased. He turned and began to walk toward his office, all the while rubbing the back of his neck with his right arm. Naruto was punching the tree before him with intense concentration, so intense in fact that he did not even notice the figure which sat in a tree above watching him. Sweat filled Naruto's eyes as his vision began to blur. He fired one last punch as hard as he could into the tree, and fell back breathing hard. The boy who had been watching Naruto jumped off the tree and landed right behind Naruto so he could look at the blonde's face. He was dressed in a blue shirt with the symbol of his clan on his back. Naruto cautiously opened his eyes to see the black-haired blue-shirt boy looking at him. Naruto looked at the boy, oddly comfortable. "Who are you?" Naruto asked, having regained his strength. "My name is Sasuke, you're Namake's Naruto, aren't you?" He answered, confident that he was right. "Yes, how did you know?" Naruto asked. "I've seen you before. You were with the Hokage in the Hokage's tower." Oh, Naruto hesitated before pushing himself off the ground and wiping the dirt off his clothes. Sasuke got off his knee and stood as well. "Naruto, I was wondering if you would like to spar with me." "Spar?" Naruto asked. "What is that?" Sasuke looked at the other boy in surprise. "Well, it's like practice fighting. Have you really never heard of the word spar before?" Naruto shook his head. "How am I going to impress Itachi if my opponent is weak? It doesn't even matter that he's the son of the Hokage. Maybe I should leave." "How does it work?" the blonde asked inquisitively. Sasuke shrugged in annoyance. "It doesn't matter." He turned to leave, but Naruto grabbed his shoulder and turned him around. "Come on, tell me. I'll spar with you if you explain it to me." "Well, it can't hurt." Sasuke sat down and began to explain it to Naruto. After a few minutes of nodding and asking questions, Naruto stood up. "All right, I'm ready." "Fine, one last rule, no weapons. Ready now?" Sasuke asked, feeling more confident and ready to fight. Naruto got set in his fighting stance for a style he did not know how to use. Sasuke charged right away and threw a fist towards Naruto's head, who barely dodged. Sasuke continued the assault, falling to the ground and kicking Naruto's feet out from under him. Naruto landed on his back but quickly somersaulted backwards and away from Sasuke's foot, which slammed into the ground. "He's fast, I have to slow him down." Naruto's thoughts were coming too quickly, and slowing his movements he jumped back 10 feet from Sasuke and began to collect himself. "What's the matter, do you give up?" Sasuke asked, bored. Naruto stood his arm against a tree, propping him up, thinking of his father's words of advice. Flashback. Naruto sprinted towards his dad and jumped over him, dodging the 2 wooden shuriken his dad threw at him. Kicking off the tree, Naruto tried to fire kunai and shuriken at his dad, who wasn't even where Naruto had thrown his weapons. Naruto slammed his fist into the ground in frustration. "I can't do this, what's wrong with me?" The yondaime chuckled. "Naruto, you need to stop thinking so much and use your senses." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked, breathing hard. "I mean you're guessing too much and going against what your fighting instinct tells you. Naruto, you need to trust yourself and not fear being wrong." "But I hate getting it wrong. Why is it so easy for you?" The yondaime laughed again. "Naruto, I have trained my hearing and I trust my instinct. If you want to be able to predict your enemy movement, you have to be able to use your senses to tell where they are and are going." "But doesn't that involve thinking?" Naruto asked, confused. "Only when you don't trust your abilities." The fourth walked off, his hand behind his back, pushing on the red robe. "Naruto, keep practicing and I know you'll get it." Naruto sighed and looked at the clone his dad had left him to work with. End flashback. Naruto concentrated and cleared his thoughts. "I'm not done yet, Sasuke." Sasuke charged Naruto and tried to punch him, but Naruto caught his fist and punched Sasuke in the stomach and then spun and kicked Sasuke into a tree. Sasuke got up wearily. "That's what I get for not taking my opponent seriously." Naruto grinned and gestured to Sasuke to come. Sasuke smirked at the gesture and stood up and jumped right over Naruto's head. Naruto watched and waited until just before Sasuke landed to send a kick to his chest. Sasuke pushed the foot to the side, but wasn't ready for the follow-up kick, which hit him in the face and knocked him into the ground hard. Naruto wasn't grinning anymore, he was frowning at the blood which was dripping out of Sasuke's nose. "Do you want to keep going, Sasuke? You look like you're hurt pretty badly." "Naruto, you don't stop so early into the fighting," Sasuke said, pushing himself to his feet. Naruto hesitated as Sasuke charged, and the second that he hesitated was all Sasuke needed to knock Naruto to the ground. Naruto got up just in time to duck under Sasuke's kick, and when Sasuke continued his twirl, Naruto blocked his other leg and grabbed his neck. Sasuke brought his hands to his neck, and as he tried to remove Naruto's hand, he was slammed into the ground. Naruto released him as Sasuke's eyes closed shut. "You win, Naruto." Naruto turned as he heard someone begin to clap behind him. "Very nice work, Naruto. You took down an Uchiha, very impressive. You might pass my test yet." Jiraiya, when did you get here? Naruto asked. Jiraiya winked at Naruto. That doesn't matter. I'm going now, I just came to check up on you. Anyway, you should probably bring Sasuke home. Jiraiya rustled Naruto's hair before walking off. Wait! Naruto shouted to Jiraiya, who was almost out of hearing distance. I don't know where he lives. Naruto wiped the blood off Sasuke and applied some healing cream he had in his back to his wounds. Jiraiya laughed at the blonde and continued walking away. That's not my problem. Naruto groaned and put Sasuke on his back. Let's go find out where you live, Naruto said to the unconscious Sasuke on his back. Naruto ran off in search of someone who might know the way. Ino was in her mom's store looking at the flowers and greeting the customers when she saw Naruto walk by with Sasuke on his back. She glanced at her mom, who she saw wasn't paying attention, and ran outside. Hey Naruto, what are you doing? Naruto smiled, relieved to see Ino. Hey Ino-chan, I'm taking Sasuke back to his house, but I don't know where he lives. Ino looked slightly awed by the situation. Is it easy to carry him? Naruto nodded, wondering why she asked such a silly question. Hold on Naruto, I'll ask my mom if I can show you the way. Ino walked back inside the flower shop with Naruto following her. Ino waited patiently for a minute until her mom had finished helping the customer she was with. Her mom smiled at Ino and then at Naruto. How are you Naruto? Mrs. Yamanaka asked, while writing something in a blue planning book on the counter. Good, and you? Fine, who is on your back? Mrs. Yamanaka asked. Naruto is pretty strong, she noted. Sasuke Uchiha, Ino answered. Naruto is going to take him back to his house, so Mom, can I show Naruto where Sasuke's house is? Well, sure. Mrs. Yamanaka replied, confused. By the way Naruto, why are you carrying him home? Well, Sasuke asked me to spar with him, so I did, but then he wouldn't stop even though I was winning, so I knocked him out, Naruto said, acknowledging what he said was kind of weird. Ino blinked, impressed. Really, I thought you found him. I didn't think anyone our age was strong enough to beat Sasuke. Mrs. Yamanaka nodded her head in agreement. That's quite a feat, but you should know Uchihas don't like to lose, so you should expect him to challenge you to spar again. Now get going, you two, especially you Ino, it's only a few hours away from dinner, and you haven't eaten lunch yet. Naruto walked over and held the door open for Ino before following her. Ino led the way, enjoying the task of leader in the search for Sasuke's house. The three children continued on until they were out of the center of the village. After a few more minutes of walking and Ino talking to Naruto, they reached the Uchiha mansion. The main gate was open and Naruto took charge, heading in first with Ino hiding behind him. The garden leading to the house was beautiful and fully vegetated but empty, and it wasn't until Naruto and Ino had walked a few hundred yards and that they saw someone. The tall boy wore a long blue cloak like Sasuke's and had his hair in a ponytail. His red eyes looked at Naruto with a tentative kindness. Hello there, who are you? Naruto looked at the older male. My name is Namikaze, Naruto, and I'm looking for a person to give Sasuke to. Yes, I see you have my brother. What happened to him? Well, you see, he challenged me to spar and I beat him, but he wouldn't stop fighting, so I knocked him out. I'm sorry to have hurt him. Should I give him to you? By the way, what's your name? My name is Uchiha, Itachi, and no, you can give him to our mother. She is inside the building behind me. He paused for a second, but as Naruto passed him, he spoke. Forgive me for not recognizing you, Naruto, but I have only seen you a couple times. Naruto nodded. Okay. He walked on and stepped inside the main house. It was beautiful and very homey. Naruto felt very comfortable inside. Ino felt so too. This place is amazing. Naruto noticed soon after walking in the shadows that moved in the doorway to his left. He walked to the door and opened it to see a beautiful woman cooking over a large pot, humming to herself. Naruto watched her for a moment, enjoying the aura she gave off. Excuse me? He said, speaking up. The woman gracefully turned. Hello, she droned off, immediately rushing over to the beaten Sasuke. She lifted him off Naruto's back and laid him down on the bench next to the white wall. Would you mind telling me what happened? The woman asked sternly. Naruto was now starting to get annoyed at being asked this question, but he answered, telling her exactly what he told Itachi. The woman sighed after hearing the story. I'm sorry if he bothered you, but he just wants to be as strong as his brother. Humph. He didn't win well. I should have expected him to lose. Hello, Naruto-san. A deep voice said from behind them. Hello, Uchiha-sama, Naruto said, bowing. So you remember me, huh? Mr. Uchiha said. Thank you for bringing him home. You may leave now. Naruto nodded, bowed again and turned to leaving, grabbing Ino's hand and pulling her with him. So there are some ninja who may be useful in this generation as well. Well, I bet Itachi is pleased. Naruto awoke at 7 a.m. like he did every morning and walked downstairs. He walked over to the cupboard and took out 3 packs of instant ramen. While making his breakfast, his thoughts drifted back to the previous day. Flashback. Ino and Naruto ran from the house and did not stop until they could no longer see the walls of the Uchiha Manor. The 2 children stood down an empty road and made their way over to a bench. The 2 sat panting, trying to reclaim their breath. Ino spoke first, though still winded. That whole thing was really creepy. Naruto nodded, half listening, half thinking about the words Sasuke's dad had said. I should have expected him to lose. He sighed and turned to look at Ino's blonde hair, which swayed gently. It was a calming thing to look at, and Naruto did it often. Hey Ino-chan, Naruto asked, want to get some lunch? Ino nodded and got off the bench and grabbed Naruto's hand. Where do you want to go? Naruto thought for a moment. Well, I know this really good ramen stand, perhaps you've heard of it. It's called Ichiraku Ramen. Ino shrugged. I like ramen, but I don't have it very much. My mom says it's unhealthy. Naruto laughed, walking off and Ino running to catch up. The blondes walked up to the stand and jumped up onto the stools. Hey Naruto, who is your friend? I am asked, sitting in front of the cash register taking orders. Hi, I am Chan, this is Yamanaka. Ino, is she a friend of mine? Naruto finished his sentence and immediately stopped paying attention. Jiraiya-sama? Naruto said, looking at a man who was red-faced, holding a sake jug in one hand and holding on to a beautiful woman by her waist. Jiraiya turned and squinted at Naruto before sitting down. Oh hello, what's your name? Never mind, good luck tomorrow for your test. I hope you know some ninjutsu. You're going to need it. The white-haired ninja spoke while laughing to himself and touching the woman on the stool next to him inappropriately. Naruto frowned. He knew little ninjutsu. He turned back to Jiraiya and thought better of it. He ordered and ate silently. When Ino was finished, he walked her back and ran off to find his dad. End flashback. Naruto sighed, eating his hot ramen. His dad had showed him how to do some low-level techniques, but he had not gone past C-level jutsu. The hair-bleached blonde climbed the stairs back to his room and got dressed. The house he lived in was not huge but very large for 2 people. Naruto had just finished putting on his ninja gear when he heard footsteps downstairs. He cautiously walked out of his room, kunai in hand, and glanced over the balcony. He saw a single shadow, a woman's. Naruto, jumping over the railing, landed behind the counter without making a sound. He waited, but the intruder hadn't heard him. He looked up over the sink, his green vest nearly scraping the counter. No one was there. He stood, sensing no chakra presence, and sighed. Not bad, Naruto, said a voice from behind him. He wheeled around in shock, only to see Anko smirking at him sadistically. Naruto blushed in embarrassment, having been tricked, and started to walk away angrily, but Anko grabbed his vest, an imitation of a jounin or chunin vest. Hey Kido, where do you think you're going? Anko asked, licking a kunai she had out. I'm going to train a little more before my test, Naruto stated honestly. What test? A test to see if Jiraiya-sama will train me or not. Anko's eyes widened in surprise. So he's taking on new students, eh? Interesting. Well Naruto, since I can't find your dad anywhere, how about I help you train? Naruto was curious to see what she meant, but his instinct told him not to. No thanks, Anko-san. Naruto began to pull away, but Anko held him tightly. Are you sure, Naruto? I could teach you some really cool jutsus. Naruto stopped struggling. What kind of jutsus? Well, what kind do you want to know? I know mostly snake jutsus, some fire jutsus, and sealing techniques. But if you want to learn any snake techniques, you'll have to gain the snake summon. Naruto halted, not sure what to say or do. Well, I don't want the snake jutsus because I might get a different summon, Naruto said, thoughtfully, talking to himself just as much as he was to Anko. Well, I guess the fire justice, Naruto said after a moment. Excellent, Anko said, grinning. By the way, Naruto, do you like blood? Minato. Minato looked from his paperwood and took a quick look at the clock above the door to his office. Naruto should be up by now, and he only has another 2 hours or so until his test. Maybe he'd like some help training. Minato stood slowly organizing his papers and putting them in a drawer to be looked at a later time. He stepped to the window and performed a seal, instantly transporting himself to his house. He walked out of his room and into the kitchen, but to his disappointment no one was home. He stepped outside and walked around to the back of the house where Naruto liked to train. The backyard was rather huge, with a few acres of grass and training dummies in front, close to the house, and further back woods where a dirt path through them led to a training ground for more private and secluded training. Minato pushed open a gate and stepped onto the terrace when he sensed a strong chakra presence coming from the woods. He began to walk a little faster. It was when he got to the dirt path that he felt an incredible amount of heat. He became suspicious and, using a combination of speed and stealth, quickly traced the heat to its source. The source was an exhausted Naruto and a crazy Anko laughing uncontrollably. Naruto dived out of the way, avoiding another spit of fire, and rolled to his feet only in time to jump into the air, avoiding 3 shuriken Anko had hurled. Naruto formed the seals in mid-air and gathered his chakra for one of the attacks he had been practicing. Great Fireball Jutsu. Anko nodded, approving of the giant flame that shot towards her. She fired another fireball into the first, both dissipating with a crash. Naruto fell to the ground, not able to stand. He watched a shuriken hit him in the shoulder before closing his eyes. His thoughts became muddled and then he lost consciousness. Minato looked horrified at the scene and within a second was at his son's side. He looked at Anko, his eyes fiercely questioning her sanity. Anko grinned at the handsome blonde, winked and blew him a kiss, then without waiting for a reaction she disappeared into the ground. Minato sighed, looking at Naruto, who lay bloody and tired. "How are you going to pass your test now?" he whispered to his unconscious son. He gathered some chakra to his hands and was about to perform some medical jutsu, the few he knew, when he saw Naruto's bloody cuts begin to heal on their own. The fourth looked in awe and removed the shuriken in Naruto's shoulder. Sure enough, the deep injury began to heal, the muscle reforming and reattaching where it had been destroyed, and then finally the skin melded back together. "Amazing," Minato whispered, watching the healing. "I had no idea the Kyuubi's gift worked to such an extent. I should look into all its potential. It could be extremely valuable to Naruto training-wise." He stood and teleported back to his office, Naruto under one arm, something only he, the legendary Yellow Flash, could do. Putting Naruto on the green sofa which he had sat on years ago, when his life had only just been spared, he walked over to his desk, opened a journal which he labeled Kyuubi Powers, and began to write of what he had just seen. In the middle of writing, Jiraiya burst in, about to yell but stopping at the sight of Naruto. "What happened?" the white-haired Sannin asked curiously. Minato grinned. "It was amazing, and I got to see a first-hand account of the Kyuubi's powers at work. It seems the Kyuubi's chakra heals him even if the wound is severe. Truly remarkable." Jiraiya nodded, his hand to his chin, lost in thought. "Interesting, but does this mean he won't be able to take the test today? I really would have a tough time keeping up the image of a drill sergeant if I postponed this." The Yondaime shook his head. "I doubt he'll awaken today. He's only 7, Jiraiya, and if my theory is correct, his body will rest longer than it needs to, not fully understanding that it's recovered." Jiraiya sighed. "Well, I'll find a way to work this out. Anyway, what happened to him?" Minato frowned, pushing back his hair. "Anko happened. She was training Naruto, and—" "You let her train him?" Jiraiya broke out laughing and then said sarcastically. "Why don't you just give him to the Akatsuki?" Minato shook his head. "I didn't let her, I found them training." Jiraiya nodded. "Well, if you need me, you know where to find me." Naruto. Naruto awoke groggily and stood up. He looked at the clock and then his memory flooded back. Shit. He was in his room, definitely not the place he had been when he was last awake. He panicked a little before calming himself with a single thought. Anko. He knew Jiraiya would understand. Everyone knew that the crazy Jounin sometimes ruined plans. He made his bed thinking of what he needed to do. He brushed his teeth and then hurried downstairs where his dad was waiting for him. "Good morning, Naruto. Jiraiya wants you to meet him at the training grounds for your test." Naruto nearly choked on his orange juice. "What time?" Naruto asked nervously. 1 hour, so you better get ready, okay, son?" The ninja in training gulped and began to eat his breakfast. He then ran upstairs to get his gear. When he reached the training ground, Jiraiya was writing in a small book, a small blush on his face. He looked up, noticing Naruto, and put the book away. "Naruto, I hope you're ready to begin because the test begins now." Naruto bent back into his fighting stance, waiting for an attack. "Now, Naruto," Jiraiya explained. "I'm first going to test your proficiency at taijutsu. Then if you pass, we'll move to genjutsu and ninjutsu." Naruto nodded. What do I have to do? Jiraiya grinned. You have to get to the rock behind me and remember only taijutsu. Naruto looked at the rock and then at Jiraiya. The rock stood 10 feet behind the white-haired Sannin and was as tall as Naruto's waist, though much wider. Well, this shouldn't be too hard, Naruto thought, thinking of a plan. After another second of thinking, he charged and attempted to tackle Jiraiya, who rather than dodge and let Naruto by kicked him to the side, causing Naruto to slam into the ground and roll. Naruto quickly got up and charged at Jiraiya again. Naruto reached Jiraiya and proceeded to kick him in the stomach. Jiraiya dodged easily and grabbed Naruto from behind and hurled him back. Naruto flew the air and landed on his feet a little shaken. Nevertheless, the blonde flew towards Jiraiya and took out a kunai which he hurled at the Sannin. Jiraiya caught the projectile and put it in his own supply bag. Naruto jumped and slammed his heel toward the older man, who blocked it with his arm. Then, using the arm as a springboard, Naruto flew at the rock. Jiraiya grinned at the blonde's futile attempt, and before Naruto had gone a foot, grabbed his leg and threw him back. Naruto sat panting on the ground. He's faster than I thought. What else can I do? Maybe I should use the weapons combo. It's kind of dangerous, but it might work. Naruto reached into his supply bag again and took out 6 shuriken. Then he put 3 in one hand and 3 in the other, each shuriken between the gaps of his finger except between the index finger and thumb. He walked back until he had enough room to perform the attack. He ran at Jiraiya full speed and then, still in mid-sprint, began to spin, firing the shuriken in his right hand first, and then the ones in his left. Then, before he had stopped spinning, he took out 2 kunai and then, with the sharp ends pointing away from his hands, charged. Jiraiya jumped to dodge the shuriken, going too quickly to be blocked easily. Then, before he could land, Naruto had jumped into him. The force of Naruto's jump pushed the two back, even though Naruto was quickly disarmed. The two landed right in front of the rock. Naruto grinned and got off the ground, reaching toward the rock, but Jiraiya was up already and grabbed Naruto and threw him away from the rock for the 3rd time. This time, when Naruto landed, he did not charge. He sat on the light green grass and thought. After a few minutes, he stood up. Jiraiya-sama, there is no way I can get past you. I'm not strong enough to overpower you, nor fast enough to get by you. Jiraiya smiled. Very good, Naruto, you passed the first part of the test. A good shinobi must always know when he can accomplish the mission and when he can't. Naruto looked stunned for a minute before grinning, as his own frustration and humility had caused his success. Naruto walked over to Jiraiya and sat down. Naruto, I'm going to give you a short break before the second part of the test begins. Do you want to ask me anything? Naruto paused for a moment before turning his blue eyes to look at Jiraiya's. Yeah, Jiraiya-sama, if I pass the test, what are we going to do for training? Jiraiya smirked at Naruto. Well, right after, we're going to keep you training like you do now, and 2 or 3 days a week I'll train you here, and once you turn 10 I'll give you your first mission. Do you already know what it is? Naruto asked curiously. I do, but I'm not going to tell you. The Sannin winked at the puzzled boy. After they had bathed in the sun and breeze enough, Jiraiya began the second part of the test. Naruto had been given the task of holding out and staying conscious using whatever means necessary for 2 minutes. The task was impossible. Chunins could not last 2 minutes with the Toad Sannin, yet Naruto was given the task. Naruto dodged a punch and completed a back handspring to dodge a sweeping kick. Quickly completed the hand seals, he sent a huge fireball at Jiraiya, who jumped into the air, where he was met with shuriken. He blocked the shuriken and disappeared from sight, appearing behind Naruto. Naruto did not bother turning. Instead, he stepped forward, softening the impact of the blow. He somersaulted forwarded and landed with one knee resting on the ground. Naruto jumped into the air and formed more hand signs, fire raging jutsu. Jiraiya ran forward, sidestepped the flame that Naruto shot at him. Fire raging jutsu is a B-level technique which allows the user to summon chakra and fire it out his hands, and needs little chakra control since chakra can't be wasted, but nevertheless learning at such an age is impressive. Jiraiya dodged another flame which smoked over his head. Jiraiya sprinted toward the blonde, then used Shunshin Jutsu to speed to Naruto's right and put his hand on the blonde's head. Seal of consciousness. Jiraiya grunted and lifted Naruto and put him over his shoulder. Jiraiya grinned to himself. The kid's got potential. If he continues at this rate of ability, he could surpass the 4th. It had been a little over a year since Naruto had passed his test, and now throughout the village he was known as the second Itachi, a prodigy, and all the people of Konoha, even the people hated him, believed he would one day become Hokage. Naruto, however, was oblivious to the people and continued to train. In the course of the year, Naruto had been set on the task of learning all the jutsu in the village. His father had seen his ability with ninjutsu, and Jiraiya and Minato worked with Naruto constantly to help him succeed. Today was one of the few days Naruto wasn't training. He was sitting in the park helping Ino practice throwing shuriken. Ino had a test the next day and was determined to ace it. Naruto sat idly, half watching Ino and half smiling at the perfect day. A slight breeze rustled his hair as he closed his eyes. His thoughts drifted back to the day before when Itachi had been training him with Sasuke. Itachi had changed after being around Naruto. Even Sasuke noticed it, but everyone enjoyed the change, especially Minato. With Itachi constantly with Naruto, Minato worried less about the assassination attempts on Naruto, and Naruto was growing stronger. Itachi and Sasuke were like brothers to Naruto. And to Naruto things couldn't have been better. Flashback. Get up, Sasuke, Itachi ordered. Sasuke, weakly, rose, panting heavily. Itachi, I can't beat him, so what's the point of fighting? Itachi sighed. Of course you can't beat him, but the best way to get better is to fight someone stronger than you. Sasuke looked toward Naruto, who looked at him passively. Sasuke caught his breath quickly and charged at the blonde, who waited patiently. Naruto dodged the punch and spun, kicking Sasuke in the back and sending him hurtling with the added momentum. Itachi walked over and pulled Sasuke up. That's enough for now. The improvement isn't spectacular, but you certainly are faster than a week ago. Sasuke tried and failed to repress the smile which had come from Itachi's compliments. Itachi then put Sasuke down against a tree and stepped toward Naruto. Ready? Naruto nodded, slipping into the fighting stance Jiraiya had taught him. He leapt forward at the same time Itachi did and began attacking with sheer ferocity. Itachi grinned at the ability that Naruto showed while countering the attacks. None of the three noticed Minato, who sat 100 feet back watching, a smile full of pride on his face. Jiraiya came up to Minato midway through the fight and sat beside him, a grin on his face as well. You know, Minato, if Itachi keeps training Naruto like this, I won't be credited with the teaching of the 5th Hokage. Nothing has been decided, Jiraiya, and if he becomes the 5th Hokage you will most certainly get the credit. Jiraiya grinned more before turning to look Minato in the eyes. She's looking for you. Minato nodded and closed his eyes. Enko would not let up, and worse, the diplomacy meetings with Itsukage were not going well. The Hidden Rock village was not being very agreeable with attending the negotiations. After being victorious in the war 10 years earlier, Konohagakure had risen to be the strongest village and had taken mission and money from all the villages. The village in the stone had still not gotten over the embarrassing loss, and still held a grudge. The Yondaime rubbed his temples. I should get back to the office. Jiraiya nodded. I'll walk you back. I have been meaning to tell you that I want to step up Naruto's training. As you know, he almost knows all of the jutsu in our village, though he still has much taijutsu to learn. I think he should start meeting with Kakashi to work on more ninjutsu. The two powerful ninjas began the walk back to the tower, talking of their plans for both Naruto and the village. Meanwhile, Itachi was helping Naruto up. Not bad, Naruto, but your taijutsu is based too much on force and leaves many holes in your fighting style. Itachi then walked over to Sasuke and lifted him up so Sasuke could sit on his shoulders. Hey Naruto, Sasuke called to his friend, would you like to eat with us tonight? Naruto hesitated a moment before nodding. Yeah, I'd love to. Sasuke smiled, then come on. End flashback. Naruto! Ino's voice yelled. You have to help me not sleep. Naruto gave her a foxy grin. Sorry, Ino-chan. I was just thinking about something. Ino felt her anger melt away as she looked at his face. Alright, Naruto, but you will help me, right? Of course, Naruto said, getting up. The two practiced for another hour but stopped as the sky began to darken. Hey Naruto, will you walk me home? Naruto smiled. Sure, Ino-chan. Hey Naruto, you know how Sakura has a crush on Sasuke, right? Naruto nodded. A lot of girls do. He is more skilled than anyone our age. Ino slowed a little, but all she ever does these days is talk about him, so I was wondering if maybe you could introduce her. So she wouldn't have to go by herself and everyone knows you are his closest friend. Ino looked hopefully at Naruto. I will, but don't blame me if things don't turn out great. Sasuke is really picky on who he talks to. Ino wrapped her arms around Naruto. Thanks. The two continued walking when an explosion lit up the sky. Screams could be heard from the edge of the village near the western wall. Naruto's face hardened thinking of what could be happening. Naruto picked Ino up. I have to get you home now. He sprinted off toward her home while Ino lay speechless in his arms. Minato. The yondaime was sitting in his office. The sun was just beginning to set. Then he heard the explosion. He wasted no time opening the window and jumped through it. He used chakra to speed himself to the explosion. Gasping, he clutched a kunai. At the wall stood over 100 Rock Village shinobi. The Tsuchikage looked down at the yondaime from the broken wall where he stood. He tossed the bodies of 2 ninja that had been on guard. Well, 4th Hokage, this is the end for you and you peace-loving village. Prepare to die. The Tsuchikage jumped into the air. Men attack. The yondaime stood alone, but only for a moment. Soon other shinobi came. 2 Anbu units and a handful of jounin and shunin. Minato growled ferociously. Charging forward, he made his steadfast decision, to win or die. Minato did not stop as he noticed 30 ninja from the Rock Village leaving the battle to plunder Konoha. Instead, he continued to fight, shouting, "Half of you men stop those intruders at all costs." An Anbu squad looked to the 4th and nodded, disappearing in the chase. Then the bloodbath began. The yondaime fired shuriken toward the Tsuchikage while stabbing a rock ninja in the neck with a kunai. His blonde hair was the icon that would fill even the toughest of hearts with pure terror. He cut a path through the ninja until he came face to face with the Tsuchikage. The two squared off, blood covering the yondaime's face. The Tsuchikage attacked first, sending hundreds of wooden shuriken at him made from the destroyed wall he stood on. The yondaime took a seal out of his jacket and wrapped it around a kunai, and then threw it with superhuman strength toward the Tsuchikage. The Tsuchikage dodged and waited for the 4th to be impaled. Then the 4th disappeared, reappearing on the kunai right behind the Tsuchikage, who flew back, kicked in the head. The 4th threw the kunai again, and this time it was deflected by the falling rock leader. The rock leader, seeing that the situation was not in his favor, disappeared into the ground where he landed. The 4th cursed and turned to be met with 10 ninjas, all willing to die and lusting to kill. Naruto. Before Naruto stood a ninja not much older than himself, possibly 10, and holding a kunai. "Sorry kid, but you need to die now," the strange ninja said while looking at Naruto. Naruto put Ino down. "I'll take care of him quickly, stay nearby, I don't trust that you'll be safe on your own." The frightened girl ran back and hid behind a tree, her head in her hands. Naruto drew a kunai. Protecting your friend, how noble. Unfortunately for you, I'm a chunin." Naruto did not wait until the ninja finished and jumped into the air, throwing the kunai and performing hand seal. Fire of the Eternity. Naruto opened his mouth and let out a huge flame, which then dispersed into 4 others and flew at the rock ninja, who managed to dodge 2 before getting hit by the fire and instantly dying. Naruto did not wait for his strength to recover, even though he had used much of his chakra in the attack. Instead, he ran to Ino and grabbed her hand. The two ran down a road and onto a deserted street that Naruto knew only the Hyuga house was on. He ran to the complex and through the gate to see 10 ninjas fighting a house of Hyugas. Naruto stepped to the side, about to leave and find a safer place, when he saw a rock ninja fly off with Hinata. Naruto knew Hinata fairly well and decided to save her. He created a shadow clone, a technique he had learned a few weeks before, and ran off after Hinata, leaving the clone to take Ino home. Naruto did not have to run for long. The rock ninja sensed someone following and turned to encounter the enemy. Naruto stopped on a roof and fell to one leg, panting, gaining a frown from the rock ninja. "A child, I hate fighting children." He turned to go. "Stop right there," Naruto said, throwing a shuriken at the man. The man caught it and threw it back. Naruto ducked under it and began to sprint toward the rock ninja, who looked puzzled and formed a few hand signs. Naruto barely jumped out of the way as the roof tiles rose into the air and were shot at the blonde. Naruto stopped and waited for the man to make the next move. Instead, the man turned to go. "Wait!" Naruto cried. "Leave Hinata and I'll let you go." "Let me go! You've got it all wrong, I'm in control," the rock ninja said, amused, not bothering to turn and face Naruto. Naruto looked at the back of the man, who did not have the build of a typical ninja of the rock, but was more petite. "What's your name, child?" "Namikaze, Naruto," Naruto said, hoping that the rock ninja would try to attack him and he could hold off until help came. The man turned to face Naruto and threw Hinata to the side. "Well, it seems I am a very rich man." Naruto looked at him questioningly. "Why?" "Our job was to kidnap both the Hokage's child and the daughter of Hirashi. The men who did get 50,000 ryo apiece. Since I caught both of you, I'll get 100,000. Isn't that nice?" Naruto smirked. "You don't have me yet, and you definitely aren't going to." Naruto took out a shuriken and now that Hinata's out of the way, you're going to die. Minato. The Yondaime stood in the center of a heap of bodies. He had killed over 25 ninja, and if that weren't enough, his clothes' old color was indistinguishable with the amount of blood that covered him. Looking around, he saw that most of the Rock Village ninja had either gone off with Itsutsuki or in the village causing trouble. He tried to move, but his body hurt from chakra exhaustion and physical strain. He took out a soldier pill and ate it, grimacing as he did so. He looked around to the few ninja that had fought with him. He turned to Kakashi, who looked the most worried and least tired. Kakashi, I need you to do me a favor. Anything, Lord Hokage. Find Naruto for me and keep him safe. Naruto will be one of their targets along with Hyuga, Hinata, but she will be safe within the main house. Kakashi nodded and disappeared. The Yondaime turned to look at the rest of the men. 4 were uninjured, 3 other had slight wounds, and 1 was bound to die in a few minutes. Minato could not constrain himself, and tears began to stream down his face. He made no sound but turned to the men. Save as many as you can, and hurry. Many of the ninjas will be at the Hyuga complex. If you have families, head to the schools. I believe that is where most of the children will be. The men nodded and left him alone with the dying ninja. Reconstruction of life, he said, healing her wounds. Like he guessed she would have, she threw herself into the most dangerous situations. He watched as her wounds disappeared. Smiling, he teleported to his office and laid her down on the couch and left. Minato jumped out the window and began to wander down the streets, searching to eradicate the remaining opposition. Why, when Itachi, Jiraiya, and much of the Anbu forces are gone, do they attack? Terrible luck and fantastic planning. Naruto. Naruto got back up, having fallen again. He had still not managed to harm the ninja that stood before him. The rock ninja walked over to Naruto and formed some hand seals. Rock prison! Naruto backflipped over the earth that had risen out from the roof to trap him. I have to try something. I could use that combo. If it works, I could win, but I could also end up unconscious. Who am I kidding? What choice do I have? Naruto got up and formed a seal. The rock ninja watched as 20 clones identical to Naruto poofed into existence. Naruto continued, not waiting for the attack to end. Each clone formed hand signs and performed the attack. Grand Fireball Jutsu. The rock ninja watched wide-eyed as the fire came toward him. He formed hand seals of his own and turned the roof into a shield. Naruto smirked as the shield began to melt, but the smirk did not last long, as Naruto's consciousness was abruptly taken away from chakra exhaustion. The rock ninja appeared from the ground, red-faced, died to the heat. If I had stayed in the shield, I would have been boiled to death. The kid is impressive. He walked over and picked up Naruto and placed him under one arm, and then found Hinata and put her under his other arm and hurried to the wall. His mission was complete. The battle had ended and Minato was surveying the damage report. Minato shook his head, looking at the statistics. This is terrible, Minato said, turning to Kakashi. Has no one been able to find Hinata or Naruto? Kakashi shook his head, feeling regretful and guilty. Minato threw the packet of reports on his desk, letting his head fall into his hands. 30 Konoha ninja dead, 20 civilians killed. Uncountable amount wounded, estimated in the hundreds, 1 civilian lost and 1 ninja MIA. Kakashi did not know what to do. He wanted to apologize, or something to express the way he felt, but he was a ninja, so he said the only thing that made sense. May I lead a team to rescue Naruto and the Hyuga heiress? The Yondaime looked at him for a moment and turned away. I will ask that you partake in the mission and join the team, but I have chosen someone else to lead the team. The two turned to see Jiraiya walk in. The white-haired Sannin for once did not smile as he entered the Hokage's office. When do we leave? Minato's eyes looked at both the ninja standing before him, longing to go with them. I wish I could go as well, but I'll be expected to meet with the council to discuss our plan for battling the village in the rock. The two nodded. Then Kakashi removed his mask. Lord Hokage, may I please have the debriefing now so I can prepare? Minato's blue eyes shot down to the drawer and pulled out a file. This is a double S-ranked mission. Your team will compose of Jiraiya as captain, Kakashi, Itachi, and as requested by himself, Hayashi. Your objective is to retrieve both Hyuga, Hinata, and Naruto while eliminating or neutralizing any opposition you encounter. You leave in less than an hour. You'll meet the rest of your team by the gate. Kakashi and Jiraiya disappeared from the office while Itachi entered. Lord Hokage, I wish to be a part of the team to retrieve your son. Minato sat back in his chair. I have already enlisted you as part of the team. The rest of your team is waiting at the main gate. Good luck. Itachi's red eyes flashed, and he was gone instantly. Minato stood up and surveyed his office with cold disdain. Sometimes I wonder if the Hokage has any power at all. Naruto, I swear to God if you don't come back in one piece. He grabbed his Hokage hat and turned the back of his robe lifting into the air a little. He set upon his face the hardened look of a veteran many times over and headed toward the council's chambers, realizing that it was likely he would never see any of them again. An SS-ranked mission is usually suicide. With Naruto. Naruto fell to the ground for the 100th time, blood running down his face. The guards laughed at his efforts. The blonde sat in a cell with both arms tied behind his back and a gag in his mouth. His feet were tied up with a metal chain, and every time rose he would be knocked down by a guard or trip. Hinata was curled in a corner, tears running down her face. She was also tied up. Their captor walked up to the metal bars of the cell. "Hello, children, I just came by to thank you. I can now retire if I desire, but you, boy, child of the Hokage, I have warned the Tsuchikage about you. You are an extraordinary ninja, and I have convinced him to not to give you back in exchange for the life of the Hokage." Naruto's eyes gleamed with hatred and a desire to kill. His look was so piercing it caused the rock ninja to look away. "You, child, will be sentenced to a much worse fate. I bid you farewell." The rock ninja turned and fled the cell, chills running down his spine from the look he had received. A few minutes later the cell door opened and the Tsuchikage walked in accompanied by 2 guards and a medical ninja. "Hello, children," the Tsuchikage said as the guards removed their gags. "What do you want?" Naruto spat. "My dear boy, you shall soon find out. In the meantime, you are going to be moved out of the village in case a ninja team is foolish enough to attack." He glanced at Hinata, who was whimpering and trying to hide behind Naruto. "I am sorry about you, girl, but we will have to kill you eventually. In the meantime, you will be moved with your friend." Naruto growled. "How long do you think you can hold us?" The Tsuchikage looked at Naruto with a bored look and chuckled, not bothering to face the blonde. "As long as it takes." 2 guards quickly ran into the cell and blindfolded the 2 children and knocked them out, and then proceeded to follow the medical ninja who was making his way down into the heart of the village. In Konoha, Minato sat before the council, controlling himself to the best of his ability. "If we wage a full-out war, we will lose the position we have right now as the most powerful country. Unfortunately, we don't have a choice. We will be attacked again if we do not defend ourselves." Minato's statements filled the council's room with reason they did not wish to hear. Danza nodded. "Of course you are right, Lord Hokage." He addressed the Yondaime with cold disdain. "But are you suggesting we attack their village with our own forces?" The Hokage was wary of the trap set before him, but his passion and drive led him to attack the threat Danza had set for him. "I would like to lead a force against the village hidden in the stone and force them into an unconditional surrender. If we could do this, it would secure Konoha's safety." "But if you were to fall in battle, who would take your place?" Danza's voice withheld the curiosity of which he truly felt. The Hokage sent him a glance offering a compromise. "You know as well as I do, Danza, that it is up to you and the council to choose the next Hokage, not mine." Danza suppressed a smile. "If the Hokage dies, I can appoint one of my ninja as the Hokage and ensure my power." This was far too easy. "When do you plan on sending in your assault group?" Danza asked, while the other council members looked at him in shock. "I will leave tomorrow, taking with me 20 ninja, all Jonin and ANB units." It only took one council member's consent to approve any mission. The Hokage approved of the die had been cast, and it was time to see which ninja would end up on top. The Yondaime spun around and walked to the door and opened it. "By the way, I don't plan on dying." Then his blonde hair disappeared as he slammed the door. Danza frowned. Jiraiya's strike team. The sun was beginning to fade and darkness was rapidly falling upon the helpless village. Jiraiya knocked out the guards on duty, and before he could figure out to do with their bodies, Itachi had killed them and used an earth jutsu to send their corpses hundreds of feet below the ground. Itachi faced Jiraiya, his red eyes glowed in the night. "Listen, Jiraiya-sama, let's get one thing straight. This is a double S-class mission. Our enemies will kill us on sight. We have to be willing to do the same, or you're putting not only your lives but ours in danger, and even more so Naruto." Jiraiya hesitated. "He's right, Jiraiya-sama. I don't like it, but we can't leave any trace that we've infiltrated their village." Kakashi spoke in order to appease both Itachi and Jiraiya, and he succeeded. "Fair enough," Jiraiya said, glancing at Hiashi, who seemed to enjoy the prospect of killing all who got in his way. The 4 Konoha ninja quickly moved out and made their way to the Tsuchikage Tower, which was much more impressive than the Hokage's tower. Jiraiya entered the building first and found the Tsuchikage's office empty. He signaled the others in and they entered the room as well. Hayashi's Byakugan was on, and he was surveying everything within a mile. After 30 seconds he stopped. The children are nowhere in sight. But I see that Tsuchikage making his way here. If he keeps his pace he'll arrive here in 2 minutes. Jiraiya inhaled and exhaled softly. Alright, here's the plan. We're going to take the Tsuchikage hostage and get him to reveal the location of Naruto and Hinata. Any suggestions on how to do this? Hayashi cut off Kakashi, who opened his mouth. I'll disable him as soon as he walks through the door. Kakashi, you take out the guards, and you two, nodding at Itachi and Jiraiya, will block the exits in case the target manages to avoid capture or one of the guards escape. Right, no one must leave who sees us, otherwise we'll easily be overrun. We have 30 seconds left, Kakashi said. Positions. Jiraiya went onto the roof so he could guard all the windows, then he put a sound barrier on the room so the interrogation would be undisturbed. The group swiftly got to their positions and all could hear the target and his bodyguards walking up the stairs. As soon as the target and his bodyguards reached the doorway, the ambush began. Unfortunately, the bodyguards and Tsuchikage were extremely powerful, and Hayashi was only able to disable the chakra point in his wrist, disabling his ability to use ninjutsu. The two bodyguards were also no measly chunin, and Kakashi failed to take them out in one go with the Chidori. Sensing they had failed, Jiraiya and Itachi used Shunshinjutsu to get back to the office. Take them out quickly, Jiraiya ordered. The Tsuchikage turned to retreat but was forced to jump back as Itachi fired a kunai with an exploding tag attached to it into the doorway. The three rock ninjas jumped towards the Konoha ninja to avoid being consumed by the explosion. The explosion destroyed much of the door frame, but the exterior, which was made out of steel, remained intact. Itachi grinned, his Sharingan already on. He formed some hand signs. Great fireball explosion. He puts his hand to his mouth and fire a huge fireball at the one of the bodyguards who ducked under it, and began forming hand signs of his own when the fireball exploded into the wall behind him. This explosion was more powerful than the one caused by the explosive tag and put a dent in the wall. The first bodyguard formed some seals and created a rock wall around himself to protect himself from the blast. The other bodyguard was propelled by the flames toward Itachi, who was waiting with a kunai, and as the rock ninja came in reach, Itachi cut the enemy ninja's throat, causing the rock ninja to watch his blood drip out of his neck. The rock ninja looked up at Itachi, sucking in air which wheezed in his cut. Itachi smiled and kicked the dying ninja at his partner, who dodged his comrade. The dying rock ninja crashed into the desk and everyone in the room knew he was dead. The Tsuchikage frowned at Jiraiya, who began forming a ball of chakra in his hand. Wait, I can't. The Rasengan would break the walls and then we would blow our cover. I'd better leave this to Hayashi. Hayashi, take my place. Hayashi didn't respond. Instead, he walked over and began to attack. Hayashi opened up with some easy attacks to let the Tsuchikage get overconfident. Then he began to speed up his attacks. Hayashi smirked. He had to give the Tsuchikage credit. The leader of the rock village was fast, and the Tsuchikage was dodging all his attacks in a very small confined area. Meanwhile, Kakashi was facing off against the guard and having a difficult time. Rock impalement, the bodyguard said, as several pikes appeared out of the ground and flew at Kakashi and Itachi. Kakashi took out 3 shuriken and fired them at the guards, who dodged them. Itachi, who was by now very impatient, fired a few shuriken of his own, and the rock ninja was forced to dodge by approaching Kakashi. Kakashi had predicted his enemy's moment and was waiting with the Chidori, impaling the rock ninja on the spot, killing him instantly. That is for my sensei. The 3 Konoha ninjas turned to Hayashi, who had landed another hit and had the Tsuchikage pinned against 2 walls. The Tsuchikage in desperation kicked a hole in the wall, leaving himself open to attack. Hayashi began a combo of hits that took down all the chakra points in the Tsuchikage's arms and legs. Pulling the Tsuchikage back, Hayashi tied him into a chair with ninja wire. Kakashi then moved to the wall and put a genjutsu on it to make it look like there was no hole. Jiraiya looked at the genjutsu that was now in place and groaned. There is no way a decent shinobi will not be able to tell that is a genjutsu. Let's find a better location for the interrogation. Hayashi, you carry the Tsuchikage. Now let's move. Hayashi closed the chakra point in the rock leader's head, putting him into a temporary coma. Then he lifted the Tsuchikage onto his back, turned his Byakugan on, and followed Jiraiya and Kakashi while Itachi brought up the rear. After a few minutes of sneaking through the rock streets of the village, Hayashi spotted an abandoned warehouse. There, that building is where we'll get our information, Hayashi whispered to his teammates. The group proceeded cautiously but quickly to the building. Upon arriving, Jiraiya placed another sound barrier on the building. The interior of the building was completely black, and the windows allowed little light from the waning moon. Hayashi bent down and leaned the Tsuchikage against the wall, and then leaned over and released the chakra point in the Tsuchikage's neck. "Where are the two children you captured?" Jiraiya asked, his tone merciless and ravenous. The Tsuchikage smiled. "Though I have been called a coward by some, I am not, and no amount of torture or threats will get me to reveal the place of the two children we have captured." Jiraiya's face contorted in anger. "We'll see about that," he said, taking out a kunai. "I will rescue Naruto." The Sannin was about to take out his frustration on the captured leader when Itachi put his hand on the old man's shoulder. "Allow me. Naruto, I will bring you back." Jiraiya stepped aside and Itachi walked up to the Tsuchikage. "I hope you enjoy pain." Itachi then plunged a kunai into the Tsuchikage's thigh. The Tsuchikage groaned at the pain, but that was all. Itachi observed the Tsuchikage's reaction and shook his head. "He's not going to tell us anything. Let's go back to our village and see if we can make a trade. Maybe the Rock Village Council will be more agreeable." The Tsuchikage frowned. "The council will definitely make the trade. This isn't good. I had such plans for the Hokage's son and that Hyuga girl as well. Hopefully they will already be in our allies' hands. If they are, then my life may be sacrificed, but it will certainly be worth it." Hayashi walked over to the Rock Village's leader and again put him in a coma by blocking the chakra point in his neck. "Let's head out. Full speed," Jiraiya said, opening the door and beginning the sprint back to Konoha. With Naruto. Naruto was in a dungeon hanging from the ceiling by his wrists, which were shackled together. Naruto was a mess. His hair was dyed red in places where his blood had dried. He couldn't help but pause for a second and think of his father. "Dad, I promise you I will find a way to get back to you." Hinata was next to him, also hanging from the ceiling, her pale eyes dry and sad. She had given up crying hours ago, and now would not speak. Naruto, on the other hand, had not given up and was struggling to break the chain that held his shackles in the air. He didn't need to worry about being spotted since there were no guards stationed outside the cell. It was especially good that there were no guards on duty because he groaned and moaned every few minutes due to the pain. He was in a lot of pain. The medical ninja had put a paper seal into his back, and to do so the medic had removed all of the skin on Naruto's upper back and afterwards put the skin back on. Naruto was still not aware of what it was used for, but he still felt the tremendous pain which had left him in tears. It was after the procedure he was brought to this cell. There were many other cells in the hallway, and Naruto was thinking about how to release the hundreds of other prisoners in the huge dungeon. They had been moved a lot. Once they had reached the center of the village, they had been thrown in a carriage and blindfolded. All Naruto could remember were the bumps of the carriage rolling over a rock or into a ditch. After a few hours they had been tossed out and picked up and moved by foot. They had been brought to the building they were now in. After that he had lost consciousness. His thought drifted back the pale-eyed Hyuga who was hanging next to him. "Hinata," he called to the girl again. "We'll be alright, you just have to trust me, okay? I'll get us out of here." The girl did not answer. He sighed and continued to struggle against the pain. He was not sure where he was, except he did think they were no longer in the village hidden in the rocks. He once again lifted himself up to the shackle and began to cut the chain with the metal filer he had pulled out of his sleeve. Minato grinned at his luck. Jiraiya and the other members of the team had all survived and had even brought back the Tsuchikage. He had listened to the whole tale Jiraiya told, from the battle to sneaking through the streets hiding in the darkness of the shadows. He had sent a ninja in to try and set up negotiations with the village hidden in the rock for a truce and an exchange of prisoners. So far the person he had sent out hadn't come back, but he wasn't worried. In fact, Minato was calmer. I could make this the shortest war in history. He thought about being with the council only 18 hours before and signing the statement of war. He rose to his feet from the mat he was sitting on. He pushed open the flaps of the entrance to his tent and walked to where the Tsuchikage lay. The most powerful ninja in the rock village lay at Minato's feet, unconscious from when Hayashi had hit him. Minato looked at the Tsuchikage's face, looking for something to explain the violent general's actions. It was a good thing Hayashi was on the team. The gentle fist style is very effective against the rock ninja style of fighting. He turned, sensing someone approaching him. "Sir," came a voice. "Sir, the Rock Ninja Council had agreed to negotiations." Minato smiled. "Excellent. What are their terms?" The ninja let his arm drop to his side and began to deliver the message. "The Rock Village Council said they would be willing to meet you at the gate and to bring the Tsuchikage as a showing of good faith." Minato nodded. And of course they will bring their prisoners to the meeting as well? The guard nodded. Yes, Lord Hokage, they stated they would. They asked to meet you at the gate in 1 hour. Minato dismissed the ninja with a wave and grabbed the Tsuchikage. He pulled the rock leader up and hoisted him over his shoulder. Then, making his way over to the main encampment, where most of the ninja were resting or talking, he began looking for Hayashi. Minato! Jiraiya called, running over to him. I just heard you will be entering negotiation. Yes, that's true. I need you and Hayashi to join me for the negotiations. Jiraiya smirked. I bet you think my good looks will sway the council to submit to your every word. Well, since you insist, I'll go. Sighing, Minato shook his head. Anyway, have you seen Hayashi-san? Yes, he was resting, but he'll be up now. Let's go and get him. Alright, let me just put down a transportation seal in case things go wrong. After getting Hayashi to join him, Minato made his way to the gate with 20 minutes left to spare. Alright, Hayashi, you know that I need you to open the chakra point that you closed, and Jiraiya, you know you here because of your experience in the matters. Now the only other things you need to know is that the only terms that we will accept are the ones where we get Hinata and Naruto back and the war ends. Nodding, the two ninjas turned their attention to the gate that they had reached. Almost immediately the Rock Council appeared as the gate opened. Ah, the legendary yellow flash, what an honor! Minato laid the Tsuchikage down and bowed. Yes, and you are? The Yonde asked. I am Misa, leader of our village's council. Now I expect you wish to begin the negotiation right away, so let's begin. We suggest a trade of prisoners. Your son for our Lord Tsuchikage. The Yondaime glared at the man, who was very old from the looks of it, and his being hunched over. We will not be willing to make any negotiations at all unless both Naruto and the Hyuga heiress are returned. Hayashi, who was very tense for a second, relaxed a little bit. The 5 council members did not change expressions. They had expected the reaction. Very well, and we also propose a truce, Misa said. You suggested what I was about to accept. If that is all for negotiations, would you care to bring out the prisoners? Misa nodded, agitated, and one of the council members whispered something to a guard who disappeared into the ground. Excuse us for not have the children, they were supposed to be here by now. With Naruto. Naruto ran down the halls, Hinata next to him holding his hand. Naruto was having a hard time focusing. Prisoners in every cell he passed tried to plead with him to free them. He stopped where the hallway forked. Hey Hinata, can you use the Byakugan to see which way to go? Hinata gripped his hand tighter. I can't do it every time, but I'll try. She released his hand and formed the necessary signs and focused chakra to her eyes. She turned and looked in both directions. Which way should we go, she asked. To the office or the guard's sleeping quarters? Definitely to the office. The sleeping quarters probably don't have a door to the outside. Hinata pointed straight ahead and they began running. At Naruto's cell. What the hell? The guard screamed, terrified. The cell was empty and the bars melted, and a file tossed on the ground beside it was part of the shackle that had once bound Naruto's hands. This is bad, the guard said. Alert the commander immediately. He ordered the other guard next to him. He walked into the cell to investigate more and began wheedling away for 10 minutes. The head guard turned horrified as another ninja appeared next to him. He. God, what the hell are we going to do? The new arrival said. If we don't get those prisoners, we have no bargaining chip for the Tsuchikage. I'm going to search for the kids. You get everyone you can on this. The head guard gulped as the other ninja disappeared. Naruto kicked open the door to the office and saw 3 people filing papers. Immediately he charged, knocking out the one that looked the strongest with a kick to the head. One of the office workers screamed and ran out while the other stood and moved into a fighting stance. Naruto formed some hand signs. Grand Fireball Jutsu. The office room began to collapse and the worker who had managed to dive to the side was pinned as the roof collapsed on him. Naruto began to feel the pain of not being fed properly and cringed. Nevertheless, he picked up Hinata and jumped out of the room and onto the collapsing roof. He jumped again and landed in the grass. He let Hinata off and without a word the two began running. Naruto could hear shouting not that far back and he began to worry that they would be caught. Hinata wanted to stop. She was tired and was not trained for this sort of strenuous activity. She continued on, not halting even as her breathing turned into fitful hiss of wheezing. Naruto after a few more minutes stopped. Hinata, take a quick rest. Their tracker ninja will not have been sent yet, so I'm going to help them lose our trail. Please get out of the way. Hinata nodded and walked over and fell behind Naruto. Multiple fireballs shot. Naruto fired several flames, destroying all the trees and shrubbery and the tracks that Naruto and Hinata had left for 200 feet. That should bide us a little time. Naruto helped Hinata to her feet, and they changed direction, making a right to where Naruto assumed Konoha was. With Minato. Minato watched with amusement as Misa's face paled white. "What do you mean escaped?" he screamed at the guard who had just whispered something into Misa's ear. Misa turned irately to Minato. "We will continue our discussions tomorrow at the same time." "Why can't we finish now?" Minato asked, having an idea but wanting to make sure. "Naruto escaped, that's my boy." Minato began to think with pride about Naruto's escape. Well, it seems that Misa turned to the other council members to see if they could come up with anything. None rushed to his aid, and instead of looking like a fool, he decided to tell a lie. "It seems one of the children has escaped. They will be recovered shortly, of course, and then we can continue our negotiations." Hayashi looked at Minato impressed, knowing it would not be Hinata who he was talking about. "Very well," Minato said, holding back a smile. "We will finish the deal tomorrow." He quickly grabbed the Tsuchikage and teleported back to the base. Jiraiya and Hayashi both rushed back in order to catch the Hokage. The Yondaime reached the tent where the Tsuchikage was staying and dropped him down. "If I can rescue the escaped kid before they get him, then we'll have more bargaining power, and we'll have to submit to an unconditional surrender." Minato grinned. Now all he had to do was inform Jiraiya and he was set to go. Speedily Minato ran to his tent and threw off his Hokage's robe and hat and grabbed a katana he used when he needed to be silent in his killing. Then standing, the tall handsome blonde strode out, realizing that Jiraiya and Hayashi were probably arriving. As if on cue, Jiraiya and Hayashi dropped into camp from the tall trees surrounding the grassy field where the tents were stationed. "Minato, if you're going to look for the children, at least take an Inuzuka to help track them down," Jiraiya said, trying to convince him. Minato looked hesitant and began to shake his head. "They're exceptional trackers, but they would hold me back." "Then take a Hyuga to help a little, you know they are strong fighters." Minato wavered. "Yes, I suppose that would be a good decision, but who to take?" "Hayashi would certainly go. If not, I'm certain that another would be more than willing to take his place." Minato looked at Jiraiya warily. "Fine, help me find first Hyuga available." Nodding, Jiraiya walked off and found Hayashi, who was taking tea in his personnel tent. "Hayashi-san, you're needed by Lord Hokage to search for the child who has escaped." Hayashi rose after putting his teacup down. "Of course." Hayashi and Minato set off right away, cautious not to be found out and start another war. With Naruto. Naruto and Hinata had been running non-stop for over 2 hours, and finally they had to stop. Naruto, having used a significant amount of chakra on no food, felt very weak, and Hinata, who was not trained for running so long, was so exhausted it looked likely she would lose consciousness. Naruto looked around, panting loudly. He sighed, seeing nothing edible, and then tried to stifle a groan as his stomach growled. He turned to Hinata, who was gasping for air. "We're going to be caught if this keeps up. But what can I do?" "Well, at least I'm sure we're not near the rock village." Naruto struggled to his feet. "Hinata, can you walk?" The young Hyuga wanted to say no, but she nodded and rose to her feet as well. The two then began to march onward, having no idea that they were going the wrong way. The Yondaime sped quickly to the Tsuchikage's office. Hayashi then checked the building with his Byakugan and affirmed no one was in the building. The Yondaime sat down on the broken remains of the Tsuchikage's desk. "Alright, so Hayashi-san, here's the plan. We have to find what information we have on Naruto and your daughter, so I suggest we find the council's chambers and see if we can overhear anything they say regarding their search for the children." Hayashi nodded. "I'll see what I can do." He activated his Byakugan and began the search for the specific 5 people. It only took a minute for the leader of the Hyuga clan to locate the council. They are located only about a mile north of here, however we'll have to be extremely vigilant, the building is swarming with guards. Minato frowned. "Do you think we'll be able to safely gather the information?" Hayashi smirked. "When there's a will, there's a way." 10 minutes later. Minato lay with his ear to the roof listening to the conversation. He had focused chakra to his ears to enhance his hearing while Hayashi stood guard beside him. Hayashi was smiling. He had taken out 4 guards rather easily, and after Minato had seemed very impressed. Hayashi kept watch and occasionally looked into the council's room, but he was not worried. Minato had put a powerful genjutsu over the building that convinced onlookers that the guards were still patrolling, and they of course were not on the roof. How could 2 children possibly escape our main prison? The most dangerous criminals in the world can't. Mrs. screamed. Our Tsuchikage is a failure. He's ruining me. Well, their skills were underestimated and they were not put in a chakra-absorbing cell. The head guard stated, embarrassed. He pulled on his white mustache, very nervous. Where are they now? We have to catch them in the next 22 hours. Can that be achieved? I'm positive it can be done. They are outside the village, not that far but we only sent out Tracker Ninja half an hour ago. You know, the child accidentally destroyed the communication building, so I had to come here to contact them and file a report. The man was beginning to stutter. Miso was a very scary person. If you don't find the children, I'll make sure I have your head for treason to the state. The guard paled considerably. May I go now, sir? Yes, and don't come back unless you find those children. Miso sat down in a rage as the door closed with the head guard leaving. I believe that there is nothing else to discuss at the present. So I would like to adjourn this meeting until the children have been caught. One of the female members of the council stated, rising. The other members nodded as well and all began to exit. Minato rose as well. Hayashi, please take care of the ninja who just came out of the building and put him back up here. Hayashi did as he was told and the guards soon joined the heap of bodies. Alright, it seems Misa lied and both Hinata and Naruto have escaped. They are somewhere outside the village, so we have to get back right away and create teams to find them. Sprinting, Hayashi and Minato hastily left the village. With Naruto and Hinata were still walking, but they had found an apple tree and Naruto put 2 apples in his weapon pouch, which the guards had emptied when he was taken. 2 others he had in his hands and was eating. Hinata also had 2 apples in her hand, but she was only eating one and holding on to the other for later. The 2 children savored the taste in their mouth, and the watery fruit quickly relieved their unnourished blood. Hey Hinata, are you feeling better? Naruto asked, feeling much better himself. She nodded, biting into the apple. Well, since you are, I was wondering if in a few minutes you would be up to running again. It sort of makes me nervous to walk when there could be Tracker Ninja following us. Alright Naruto-san, but when do you think we'll be able to take a break? Naruto paused. The question had been bothering him for a while. I don't know. Naruto fell weakly into the sandy dunes sliding ground. Hinata, who had been on his back, fell on top of him, and then rolled off into the sand. Naruto knew they had little chance in the desert heat. The only thing that kept him going was the thought of returning to his father. He had now been without water for over 20 hours and had had no food, besides the 4 apples the evening before, for over a day. Naruto tried to stand, but the dry desert air weighed heavily on him, and he fell. I'm going to die if I can't at least get to the top of this dune. If I can't, the sand will cover me and no one will ever know what happened to us. Naruto thought scared him, and he stood, fear overpowering weariness he felt. He grabbed Hinata and half carried, half dragged her to the top of the sand hill. When he reached the top, he smiled triumphantly. He stood at the top of the hill without a shirt, his black one having proved too hot, and his black baggy pants ripped off below the knees, turning them into shorts. Naruto's hands shielded his eyes from the sun and he looked out in every direction, having no idea which way to go. Hinata, he choked out. I think we're lost. Feeling guilty for bringing Hinata to die, he sat next to her and brushed the sand off her face. He looked out to the desert again, his vision hazy. Then he saw it. A giant wall of sand and rock some miles out in the distance, and Naruto knew right away it was the village hidden in the sand. Hinata, if we can make it there, we can live. Naruto rasped out, his energy coming back to him as his adrenaline began to kick in. If I can make. Minato trembled, pacing back and forth. Near him stood Jiraiya, and 3 captains of ANBU squads, including Itachi and Kakashi. I don't know what to do. It's been a day. No one knows where the kids are. The council of the village hidden in the rock demand for the release of the Tsuchikage. What do I do? Kakashi grimaced. The Hokage was known to get emotional, but not like this. Minato was not holding up well. Lord Hokage, you are faced with one of the most important decisions in the history of Konoha, and there is possibly no right answer to the situation. Kakashi spoke words not that he believed, but ones which he hoped would calm his leader down. But Lord Hokage, Itachi said, interrupting. Your decision is not as hard as you are making it out to be. Anbu teams are scanning the country looking for Naruto. Some have gone so far as to check in the waterfall and grass countries. Be patient. The Rock Council have no power now unless they are willing to lose their Tsuchikage. Jiraiya nodded, his eyes were close and he was leaning against a tree, thinking. Itachi is right. If worse comes to worse, you can demand that the Rock countries pays for the damage it caused to Konoha in exchange for their leader. Minato hesitated, unsure. What if Naruto and Hinata are dead? What if? He stopped. I'm going to take a walk. I will have an answer when I get back. Minato walked past Jiraiya and into the denser forest. Naruto, where are you? His hands covered his face, and then moved up to pushing back his hair. I know I need to stop worrying and focus, but I can't. He slammed his fist into a rock, smashing it to pieces. Damn it all! He let himself fall back onto the hard ground. Sometimes I wish I had never been chosen to be Hokage, and I know for thinking that I'm a bad Hokage, but... He smiled a little bit. And now I'm lying on the dirt in a foreign country, having lost my son, talking to myself. I need to settle things like Mazama. He remembered the quote, when in doubt knock it out. Then he stood up. I'll try forcing the Rock Council to the trade, then I'll leave Rock Country and focus all my efforts on finding Naruto and protecting Konoha. He got up, wiped the back of his shirt clean and headed back to camp more confident. Naruto did not make it to the village hidden in the sand. In fact, he barely made it halfway when a boy with red hair came up to him. Naruto lay panting, his face burnt badly in the desert sun. He did not want to guess how long he had left to live. Hinata was not faring any better, and she would not wake no matter how much Naruto coaxed her. Who are you? The boy with red hair asked. Naruto did not have the strength to speak, but he tried. Naff. The boy, who was the same age as Naruto, looked puzzled. He's not scared, it seems. In fact, he looks happy. I am going to take you with me. Naruto's eyes opened wider for a moment in awe as he began to lift into the air. Ugh! He groaned again. The boy with red hair turned back to him. What is it? Naruto pointed at Hinata, who he saw was not being lifted. Do you want her to come too? Naruto nodded weakly. Alright, but after you're better you have to play with me. His voice was gruff and demonic, but Naruto did not care. They were saved. Minato stood before the council, Jiraiya next to him. 2 Anbu squadrons stood waiting, one to the right and one to the left of Minato and Jiraiya. The ANBU stood flanking the 2 legendary ninjas, their masks covering their stoic faces. The Rock Council, clearly intimidated, waited nervously to hear the Hokage's demands. Minato stepped forward. I have decided to make a compromise, and it is the only one I'm willing to accept. Misa gulped softly. This can't be good. The village hidden in the rock will pay for the damages done to the village hidden in the leaves in exchange for the return of the Tsuchikage. Minato's commanding voice filled his troops' ears and gave them the sense of justice they had been looking for. Misa's face paled. We caused millions of real worth of damage. What will we do? He turned to the rest of the council members. We can't pay that. We'll have to sacrifice the Tsuchikage. The other members of the council shook their heads. The second oldest council member spoke, her old voice crackling. We must pay it. It was our foolishness which approved the decision to attack. Misa's face grew red. Are you for paying the debt? The old woman nodded. It is what must be done. She turned to the yondaime. We will pay the cost of the damages. We will have the money for you tomorrow, and you can give us the Tsuchikage then as well. The yondaime grinned. Very well, I'll have someone give you the list of the damage costs. Let's go. He called, already walking back. Success. Naruto awoke reasonably rested and refreshed. Where am I? He asked himself, trying to recall the events of the previous day. He felt a little tired, but curiosity proved too much for the 8-year-old, and he pushed back the covers. Rubbing his eyes, he looked around at the room he was in. Hinata lay in the bed next to him, still asleep. Naruto looked down. He had on a nightgown, and he was fairly comfortable, but something was bothering him. Then it came back to the confused blonde. That's right, we were in the desert, and then that boy saved us. Naruto walked over to the window and looked outside. It sure looks hot. Naruto mumbled, looking at the people who bustled through the streets, seemingly not noticing the sun which caused everything to haze. He stretched and walked back to his bed, where he noticed a note. He picked it up and began to read. To the stranger. When you wake up, meet me in the Kazakage's tower. If you remember, you were in the desert when I found you. Please do not bring the girl. Naruto crumpled the paper into a ball and threw it into the trash can. Hinata, I'll be back for you in a bit, but since I believe we're in a hospital, you should be okay. Naruto walked out of the room quietly, being sure to dodge the nurses, which his father claimed to be terrifying. Naruto found the laundry after half an hour of searching and rustled through the clean clothes until he found something that fit him. After dressing in what he guessed to be typical Sand Village attire, he left the hospital, no one knowing he had gone. He walked out into the blazing sun and almost walked back inside. The air conditioning of the hospital had not prepared him for the spring heat. I'd better find the Kazekage Tower quickly or I'll roast in this heat. Naruto was about to begin the search when his stomach growled. He rubbed his stomach thoughtfully. Well, I'll eat first then search. He found a restaurant quickly and sat down. I don't have any money. Crap. He sighed and looked at the menu. After ordering, he ate quickly and left without paying. Feeling much better, he turned to the streets asking for directions. Hey mister, do you know the way to the Kazekage's tower from her? Naruto asked at Asuna Ninja. Of course, boy, follow this road for 3 blocks then make a right, and his voice droned off as he noticed something in the crowd. Excuse me? He said, vanishing into the crowd. Naruto sighed and kept walking. He followed the ninja's advice and realized that there was a lot more to it than that. After asking a few more people who just shook him off, he sighed and rested in the shade of a store. He began to nod off when all of a sudden something nailed him in the side of the head. Ow! Naruto said, rubbing his ear. He looked up to see an older boy standing above him offering his hand. Naruto took it and was pulled up forcefully. Sorry about that. I'm sort of in a hurry. The boy started to run off again. Wait! Naruto yelled. Can't you at least tell me how to get to the Kazekage's tower? The boy stopped. Well, actually, I'm going there now, just follow me. Naruto grinned and began to run after the boy who was dressed all in black. The two reached the tower a few minutes later, both breathing hard. You're pretty fast, kid. What's your name? Namake's Naruto. What's yours? Kenkuro, my father the Kazekage, which explains why I'm going to the Kazekage's tower. But why are you here? He asked Naruto suspiciously. I promised the kid I'd meet him here. Yeah, what kid? I don't know his name, but he's my age and has red hair. Well, the kid you're talking about, but that sounds like my brother Gaara. Kenkuro opened the door to the main hallway with Naruto following close behind him. Kenkuro waved for Naruto to stop. Just stay here, I'll check and see if anyone is waiting for you. Naruto, left alone, looked around for somewhere to sit. Seeing nowhere, he resigned himself to the floor and waited patiently. He tried to remember everything about the previous day when he had been saved, but it was all a blur. Naruto shook his head to get focused, hearing someone coming down the stairs which Kenkuro had just run up. You came, the boy said, almost relieved. Of course, it's the least I can do after you saved me yesterday. Naruto paused. My name is Naruto, what's yours? Gaara. Are you sure you want to be here? Most people run when they see me. Naruto looked at Gaara curiously. Why is that? Gaara flinched. I don't want to talk about it. Are you Kenkuro, brother? Naruto asked thoughtfully, thinking of Kenkuro's statement from before. Yes, I have a sister as well, but she is not here at the moment. Naruto waited, and when he got no answer, began asking again. So why did you want to see me? Gaara did not answer right away. Instead, he began to think of something to say. Well, most people are afraid of me and run away, but you, even when you couldn't run away from me, you didn't look scared. Naruto nodded, not really understanding. Well, Gaara, I have to get back to my village as soon as Hinata can manage, but in the meantime I don't have any money, so would it be alright if I stayed with you? Gaara stared at Naruto, astonished. You would stay with me? Sure, if that's alright. Why, yes, I would like you to. Naruto smiled. Thanks a lot, I'll try not to be too much trouble. Gaara tried to smile back, but the facial expression was not natural and awkward and ended only half successfully. Come on, I'll show you where you can sleep. Gaara led Naruto out of the Kazekage's tower and began the walk to his home, answering all of Naruto's questions and sometimes informing him on things the blonde wouldn't have thought of to ask. Minato surveyed the place where his special army had camped out in for the past 3 days. The Jonin in charge, or the cleanup, had done an excellent job of leaving no trace they had been in the camped area. Everything that could be taken was gone, and the rest was burned along with various other objects and plants that hinted that the Hokage's army had been there. Minato looked at the few men who had remained to clean up and gave the signal. The men nodded and vanished in a variety of ways, heading back to Konoha. Minato smiled at the work. Naruto, I'll be sure to find you quickly. He formed the seal and was instantly back in Konoha in his office. He put on his Hokage hat and walked over to the council's headquarters to brief them. Knocking on the door, he was led in by a guard and led to room where the council met. He saw Danza sitting in a chair, his cane resting on the chair's arm. Danza frowned at Minato. I take it you carried out the mission successfully. Minato nodded and then told him the whole story. At the end, Danza smirked. The Uchilla prodigy is quite remarkable, a 14-year-old boy fighting with the best. Minato nodded. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to prepare a new team to look for my son. Hopefully you can find him before the village hidden in the rock does. I will. Minato teleported back to his office and began to pick who to send on the new mission. Naruto looked out the window from the mat he was sleeping on. Gaara was in the bed next to him, and both knew the other was awake. Hey Gaara? Yes, Naruto. Thanks for letting me come. Gaara smiled, something that had been gradually coming easier the more time he spent with Naruto. Thanks for coming, Gaara whispered, beginning to fall asleep. Naruto smiled and hugged his pillow tighter, knowing that Gaara was not saying those words because he was trying to be polite, but because he was truly and honestly happy that Naruto had come. Naruto awoke roughly after struggling in his mat bed. His heart beat quickly, and it took him a minute to realize where he was. He rubbed his eyes gently as his eyes adjusted to the light. He smiled, lightly, and threw the covers off. He had had a dream where he was in the desert, and a huge beast stood over him offering its help. Naruto could not remember much else except he refused, and as it came closer he woke up. He turned to Gaara's bed and saw that the boy was still asleep. Naruto rose slowly but fell as the place where the seal had been implanted into his back stung painfully. Naruto decided not to wake him and walked downstairs, exploring the hallways while avoiding closed doors. Eventually he found the kitchen, and he, rummaging through the kitchen, found some ramen and began making breakfast. This is awesome. I wonder what we'll do today. Naruto paused, reflecting on recent events. I should check on Hinata after this. A blonde girl around the age of 11 walked into the room wearily and froze upon seeing the other blonde making breakfast. She waited for the boy to notice her. When he did not, she pointed at him, her mouth agape. Who are you? Naruto turned him. I can't believe I didn't sense you. Well, you don't have a threatening presence. My name's Naruto, what's yours? Temari, what are you doing here at? She turned to look at a clock. 5:30 in the morning? Naruto grinned. Getting breakfast, I'm kind of hungry. Temari blushed and then looked down. She was in a nightgown, and she felt very uncomfortable with the boy in her presence, no matter how young he was. She looked over the table that separated them and blushed even more, seeing as he was wearing nothing more than boxers and a t-shirt. Naruto sat down at the table facing her as he finished making his breakfast. Itadakimasu. Growing more comfortable, she sat down facing him, ready to begin the interrogation. So you're Naruto. Why are you here, Naruto-kun? Naruto looked up, noodles connecting his mouth to the bowl. Slurping up the food, he wiped his mouth with a napkin and looked up to the ceiling, thinking. Well, I was in the desert dying and Gaara came and saved me, and after staying in the hospital for a day, Gaara invited me to stay here until Hinata was ready to go back to Konoha with me. She looked at him, her eyes growing wider each moment as she processed the information. I take it you're Gaara's sister. He said he had one? She nodded. So you're friends with Gaara? Naruto nodded back, smiling. Yeah, it was really nice for him to let me come and stay here. I don't have any money or clothes other than my pants, which are at the hospital. Temari got her breakfast and ate slowly, thinking of what the blonde boy had said even after he left. Naruto wandered the streets of the sand village in an outfit he took from one of Gaara's drawers. He looked at everything, and especially the alleys crawling with vendors trying to sell things to anyone who looked to have money, including Naruto, who was wearing Gaara's nice clothes. Hey boy, come here and try this candy. An old lady called to Naruto, who politely refused. Naruto continued to decline the vendor's offers until he saw something he knew right away he had to have. In a dark alley, one vendor stood at a stand, created by a cart turned sideways, where beautiful weapons hung. Naruto walked into the alley and faced the nervous-looking vendor who tried to shoo him off. Wait! Naruto demanded as the man began to push him away. What is that? Naruto asked, pointing at a fan which hung steadily from the roof of the cart. The man's face shone with hope for a moment, then shaking his head he pushed Naruto away. You don't want that, boy. His voice was raspy and tough, the voice of a soldier. Naruto sighed. It doesn't matter if I want it, I don't have any money. But please tell me what it is. The fan was divided into 3 parts with an X painted in green on each flap. The 2 metal dividers separating the inside sections from the 2 outside ones served as sheaths for 2 katanas which sat contently in their holders. The man grimaced. Boy, leave me before I punish you. Naruto did not move. Please tell me. The man hesitated for half a second, but that was all. Sign here and you can have it. Naruto's face brightened. You're serious? The man nodded. Sure kid, just sign your first name, and it's all yours forever. Naruto signed quickly and took the fan down with a great deal of effort. The man's voice rasped in relief as if a grievance had been lifted from his shoulders. Goodbye kid. I can finally live. Naruto grinned and tried to lift the weapon which weighed over 100 pounds onto his back. Finally succeeding in lifting the weapon which was as tall as him, Naruto turned back to thank the man, but he was gone along with the cart that held all the weapons. Naruto backed up against the wall opposite where the stand had been. Creepy, he mumbled. I'd better go check up on Hinata and leave this scary alley. Naruto left the alley as fast as he could, which was slow as a result of the weapon he now carried, which was actually 3 separate weapons, the 2 katanas and the fan. Walking slowly to the hospital, he used a genjutsu to camouflage perfectly with wall and avoid nurses and doctors throwing him out. Naruto realized right away that if doctors saw the fan he would be thrown out. He arrived at Hinata's room after exerting a lot of effort to get up the stairs. Why did I take the stairs? There was no one in them, Naruto wondered, knowing the answer. Because, he told himself, if someone bumped into me getting on the elevator later, I would have had nowhere to go. Naruto dropped the fan to the floor, not caring of the loud sound it made on impact with the floor. He released the genjutsu as he saw Hinata contort in shock, not knowing where the sound came from. Hey, Naruto said, smiling at the Hyuga girl. How are you holding up? Hinata smiled shyly back. Good, Naruto-kun. I didn't know where you went, but the N nurses kept asking me where you had gone. How long did they say you have to stay here? Naruto asked curiously. I have to stay in the hospital for another week, but tomorrow I'll be allowed to walk around the hospital. What did they say was wrong? Naruto asked, sitting down on Hinata's bed, his hands positioned behind him, propping him up as he leaned back so when he turned his head he could look right at Hinata. The doctor said I was suffering from mental exhaustion and nutrient deprivation, and that they were going to keep me until I was at normal health and then a few more days to make sure I'm okay. That's 7 days in total. Are you going to get our parents? Naruto frowned. Yeah, I'm going to send Dad a message today, but it's so great here. I mean, it's hot, but there are so many cool things. Naruto spent the next half hour informing Hinata of everything that had happened, including details about Gaara and their time in the desert. After leaving, Naruto decided it was time to tell his father. Using Shunshin Jutsu, he quickly sped to the house where he was staying and Gaara and his siblings lived. Gaara sat on the roof and waved to Naruto as he saw him. Where were you, and where'd you get the fan on your back? Gaara asked. I went exploring the village and checked on Hinata. This guy gave it to me. Do you know what time it is? Gaara nodded. It's afternoon. Great, let's get lunch, I'm starving, Naruto said, grabbing Gaara's hand to pull him inside. Gaara did not move. Instead, he pulled Naruto back. Well, we're eating with my dad. I promised him I'd introduce you. Naruto scratched his head nervously. Well, okay. Gaara smiled, not realizing that Naruto was not happy. Though the red-haired boy was learning how to interact with people his age quickly, he still had not learned to read expressions. Gaara, what am I supposed to say? I mean, your dad is the Kazekage, and I know that each Kage had different rules and things for eating and stuff. Gaara hesitated. I don't know, I guess if you don't want to go, you don't have to. Naruto, seeing his friend's sad expression, put his hand on his shoulder. I'll go, I'm just nervous. Naruto and Gaara arrived in the Kazekage's office 15 minutes later. The Kazekage smirked as he opened the door for the two boys to come into. Hello, I've heard a few things from Gaara about you, the Kazekage stated, studying Naruto. It's a pleasure to meet you, Naruto said, bowing. The Kazekage bowed back. So you're from the village hidden in the leaves? Naruto nodded. Well, Naruto, if you don't mind me asking, who is your father? The Kazekage asked this question with a tone of indifference, but the truth was he was extremely curious as to who the man was. Namikaze Minato. The Kazekage's eyes widened. This boy is the son of the Hokage. If I pull this off, well, this could lead to better relations with the village hidden in the leaves. Maybe if the two boys become friends, I can convince the Hokage to help my village financially, and perhaps, well, let's not be crazy, could the son of the Hokage change Gaara? The Kazekage nodded, his eyes glossy, while he wandered through his thoughts searching for all the political benefits. The two boys meanwhile began to talk and Gaara pointed things out in the room. As the Kazekage eyes regained focus, he noticed how well the two got along. I better not push them. Yes, I'll just let them spend as much time as they can with one another until Naruto leaves. This is too perfect. Snapping his fingers, a servant ran over to the Kazekage and bent to one knee. "Yes, my lord?" a voice replied. The Kazekage leaned toward the ninja and whispered to him. "Yashimaru, I need you to bring a letter to the Hokage, but first get me some paper and a pen." "Now, Naruto, would you like something to eat?" Minato sat in the window of his house, one leg propped up against the other side of the wooden window, and the other dangling over the ground which lay 200 feet below them. The house, which looked out to the village from the tallest tower in the village, was huge in height. He had begun building the castle-like house before Naruto was born and had completed it 2 years after. The building was beautiful. If not for its architectural look, the building expressed the emotions he had felt when his first and only child was coming. Minato played with a kunai, spinning it and performing tricks he had learned when he was child. His face was for once empty, forfeiting nothing. His eyes, the coldest of all, had the look of a seasoned killer. His blonde hair ruffled softly in the breeze. He ran a hand through his hair and tried to merge his soul with the atmosphere which surrounded him. "Kami, where the hell is Naruto? I should probably check on her. I heard she's still in the hospital." Minato's thoughts were unconnected, partly due to his stress, partly due to not wanting to focus on any one thing lest he grew frustrated. Minato propped himself up, now both legs dangling over the drop. Then with a little push he let himself fall. It felt amazing to let go and let the wind take him. He opened his body, spread his limbs, and slowed his fall a little as the wind pushed him against gravity. The robe which he was wearing dangled above him, pulled down only by his arms which pulled the sleeves. Flipping, he landed on his feet in a crouched position. Feeling a little better from the high he had felt for a few seconds, he strode off to the hospital. Anko lay in her bed, bandages wrapped all around her, staining at her neck and working its way down her chest and waist and to her left knee. She was bored from staring at the ceiling and angry at the doctors who refused to let he go. In fact, she would be happy if they just didn't tie her up. Each wrist was shackled to the bed she was in, and each ankle was also tied down. She groaned and tried to turn in her bed, but was forced to stop when the pain from her broken ribs started up. She turned her head as the window to her room was forcefully pulled open. She smiled. "Hey, baby." "Hello, Anko," Minato said, walking over to her bed. "Thanks for saving me," the purple-haired Jonin said. Minato nodded, thinking of the battle defending Konoha. She had several fatal wounds and he had saved her. This was true, nevertheless, having been able to survive all her injuries attributed to her stubbornness. Well, surviving for 20 minutes after being stabbed twice and slammed with boulders and a rock spear through her leg had nothing to do with me. Well, how could I die when you were there to save me? I would have felt too guilty. Anko winked at Minato, who chuckled. Thank you, I would have been very angry if you died. The Hokage bent and kissed her forehead gently. She laughed. What? You call that a kiss? If I could, I'd show you what a real kiss is. Minato laughed back. Would you now? She nodded. You kissed me like I was your son. If I could use me arms, I would dash. Minato cut her off, kissing her gently. She moved her head up, pushing her mouth into the kiss. Well, well? A voice boomed sarcastically as the door connected with the wall. And here I thought you hadn't got over your wife's death. Jiraiya flinched, realizing that he should not have said that. Minato ignored the blow and faced his teacher. Anko growled and looked ready to kill the old Sannin who had interrupted their moment. Anyway, I figured I might find you here. I came to tell you we have just received a message from the Kazekage inviting you to come to his village in 2 days. Does he give a reason? The Hokage inquired. Jiraiya smiled and gave the answer readily, trying to make up for his insult earlier. It seems Naruto and Hinata, after coming near death, were saved by the Kazekage's son and are staying with them now. The whole story is here, written by the Kazekage, told by Naruto, and it makes sense. The Hokage beamed. Thank God, Naruto survived. Then again, I knew he would. He walked out of the room briskly. I'll check on you as soon as I get back, the blonde ninja stated, calling out to Anko as he left. The Hokage left for Sand Country less than an hour later in a carriage he seldom used. Naruto stood out in the barren wasteland right outside the village with Temari. She had agreed to help him use the fan he had bought in order to admire the fan's beauty. No, no, no! Not like that, Naruto, you'll break your wrist. Make sure your arm swing is controlled. Good, that's better. Temari stood leaning on her fan as she coached Naruto. Panting, Naruto lifted the fan again and did as Temari instructed. It was agonizing work as it was over 100 degrees out, but the 8-year-old would not quit. He focused and whipped the fan, sending a huge wave of air toward the boulder he was ordered to destroy as practice. Really, Naruto, it's impressive how strong the wind is. But if you want to destroy that boulder, you need to focus chakra so that the wave is smaller in size but more condensed with chakra and power so that it can destroy things as hard as rock. Temari told Naruto, repeating the lesson she had received the year before. Naruto nodded and tried again. Though definitely stronger, the wind was not stung enough to break the rock and instead moved it. Not waiting for more instructions, he pumped more chakra into the attack and sent another blast of air toward the rock, spitting it into several pieces. Nice work, Naruto! Temari shouted, impressed. Naruto grinned at her. Now that I have that down, I have to find someone to help me learn how to use a katana. Temari sulked. What do you mean? You don't plan to become a master of the fan and wind? Nope, I just want to know how to use it. Maybe one day I'll learn to use it at a master proficiency, but for now I just want to be able to understand wind manipulation. Naruto smiled. Maybe someday you can teach me how to use a fan at a higher level. It's such a shame to waste that talent, Naruto. Temari sighed. Naruto grinned and wiped his brow. He placed the fan on his back and walked over to Gaara, who sat watching him. So Gaara, can you teach me to move the sand like you do? Naruto asked eagerly. Gaara winced and looked away from his friend. I don't know how I do it. Gaara lied. He still did not want to tell Naruto about his demon, not until he was sure Naruto would not care. Naruto shrugged at his friend. Well, if you can't, do you know anyone who would be able to teach me sand jutsu? Gaara nodded. Let's go see my father, he knows lots of wind jutsu and probably some sand jutsu as well. The two friends walked back to the entrance of the village shoulder to shoulder. Gaara took a quick glance at his friend's face and looked away, processing the image. What makes him different the other children besides the fact that they know? His determination, so clearly outlined on his face? His loyalty, clearly present to all those in his presence. What makes him someone I feel I could want to protect? Dad! Naruto yelled. He ran over and hugged his father, who had just stepped out of his carriage. I'm so glad to see you. Naruto, you know you're a hero. Because you escaped, we forced the rock village to pay for the destruction it caused. Minato ruffled his son's hair affectionately. Everyone's so proud of you. Naruto grinned. Dad, are we going home now? His dad smiled. Whenever you're ready. How was your stay here? Great. Everyone's been really nice. Dad, can we stay a little longer? You can meet everyone. All right then, Minato said. He turned to the Kazekage. As Naruto ran off, the leader of the sand village stood smiling a little ways off. The Hokage walked over and grabbed the man's wrist in respect. The Kazekage did the same to the Hokage. It's a pleasure to meet you. You as well, the Hokage replied. Thank you for treating my son so well. Don't worry about it, the Kazekage said. In fact, I was surprised. My son has a hard time making friends as he is a Jinchuriki, but he and Naruto have become very good friends since they met. The Hokage smiled. Perhaps we can talk further in your office. The Kazekage nodded readily. Certainly, follow me. I expect that Naruto and Gaara are talking somewhere as well. True enough, Gaara and Naruto were talking in his room. Naruto, I don't want you to go. Naruto frowned. I don't want to leave you either, Gaara, but I have to go home. The two sat in silence for a little while. Naruto misunderstanding what Gaara felt, and Gaara slowly trying to gather the courage to tell Naruto he was the container of a demon that might kill Naruto someday. After a few minutes of an accepting silence, Naruto spoke. Perhaps you could come back to Konoha for a few weeks. Gaara looked up, not sure if Naruto was serious. Do you think your dad would let me come? Naruto grinned. I know he would, but it's your dad I'm worried about. Gaara sat knowing that his dad might not agree. The first person to actually care for Gaara was offering him a chance to stay with him if for only a little longer. Well, Naruto, would you come with me to ask my dad? Gaara felt like he was in a dream. It was too unreal. He was getting what he always wanted. A chance to escape from the hate and experience something other than pain. Gaara knew he had to convince his father. Naruto beamed. So you will come? Great. Let's go ask right now. The blonde stood up and offered Gaara his hand. Seeing as how well I hear Naruto's doing, what would you think of having children of each Kage meet in a country without ninjas? They would have a chaperone and train and learn from each other. It would be a great way to strengthen bonds with other countries. It would also allow our children to get stronger. What do you think? The Hokage asked, throwing the idea on the table, not thinking too much about it. The Kazekage looked at the handsome man before him, astonished. It's brilliant. The Hokage looked more interested, leaning forward now toward the Kazekage, who stood feet away. Well, I mean, there are conflict tie-ins to the idea. the Hokage said, reluctant to put the plan into action. Sure, I mean they couldn't go all year round, but it could be considered a mission. The ninja would go for a few months a year until they're 16 or so. The Hokage nodded. That's good, but I know for a fact that some of the Kage's children are older than 16. Well, then we can invite everyone for the trial period. We'll try it out in a month in the land of tea. I have a contact there, he can set up a place for them to live. I'll send a guard with my children, very strong. He was going to be their trainer in a few years anyway. The Kazekage seemed excited, exploring all the possibilities. In the past, the village hidden in the sand's main weakness was having bad relations with other countries, and this would fix the problem. Well, if you'll do it, I'll send Naruto and Jiraiya. I suppose it would be alright to visit him every now and then, right? He questioned the Kazekage as if needing final reassurance. Definitely, I know you haven't been on best terms with the village hidden in the rock, so I'll invite the Tsuchikage's nephew. He doesn't have any children. I'll also invite the rain and grass. Do you think you could invite the rest? My village has no contact whatsoever to the mist, cloud, and waterfall. You're forgetting the sound. The Hokage said casually. He was still very comfortable discussing light politics. The Kazekage grinned. I wasn't aware that the sound had a Kage leader. The Hokage smiled back. I'll look into it. In the meantime, I believe we have 2 snoopers at the door. Using one of the many jutsu he knew, he opened the door without getting up, and Naruto, who had been leaning on the door trying to hear everything, fell into the room. Naruto looked at the 2 Kages innocently. I'm sorry. Gaara, who had been hiding in the shadows, walked through the door and used his sand to pick Naruto up. Father. Gaara began. Naruto, seeing this would not end well if Gaara asked, cut him off. Lord Kazekage, would it be alright if Gaara came with me back to Konoha for the month before we leave for tea country? The Kazekage looked at Naruto, his expression not changing for a moment, and then he nodded. I see you wish to pay back the hospitality Gaara showed you. That is fair enough. Gaara, pack your things, you will be leaving soon. Gaara disappeared in a cloud of sand, eager to leave. Naruto turned to his father and whispered into his ear. There is something I have to tell you that I left out of the letter. I'll tell you about it later. Minato nodded, deciding it would be best not to press the matter forward. The Tsuchikage grit his teeth. The Hokage had made him look like a fool, and that Hyuga carrying him around everywhere. Since being returned, he had given a speech which undoubtedly restored the people's faith in him. He was a brilliant public speaker. He had also executed the guard who had failed to find the children. The scapegoat's death gave the villagers of the village hidden in the rock a sense of justice. Today was the day he would meet with the medical ninja to see if he had done his job. The Tsuchikage sat waiting in his room. The doctor, as the man called himself, was supposed to have arrived 3 minutes ago, and the Tsuchikage was getting nervous. He knew the doctor would not come if he had failed. A minute later, he breathed a sigh of relief as the man walked into the room. Hello, my lord, the man said, addressing the Tsuchikage. The leader nodded back. I take it the sealing was successful? Indeed, we have inserted the seal right next to his spinal cord. If they try to take it out, they run the risk of paralyzing him. Also, we have put another seal above that which blocks out any type of jutsu that could be used to destroy the seal from outside his body. The Tsuchikage nodded, his teeth shone as his lip curved up into an evil smile. Good, and the seal will work, won't it? Absolutely. When shall we use it? We will call a truce with Konoha for the next 10 years, giving the boy time to grow more powerful. Then we will use the seal. You are dismissed. The medic ninja turned a smirk on his face. He pushed his glasses into place and vanished. He almost felt bad for the Tsuchikage. With Naruto. As soon as they were ready to leave, Gaara put the bags containing everything he needed for the next month into the carriage, and the 4 left. They had picked up Hinata an hour before it was time and had her comfortable in the carriage, released a whole day earlier than the doctors wanted. They made good time over the next 2 days and arrived in Konoha, where 5 people were waiting. Naruto! Sasuke and Ino shouted, glad to see their friends return. Itachi was waiting as well. He had a smile on his face which, though seemed out of place, did not disrupt the tough handsomeness which he pulled off so well. Along with them stood Hayashi, who picked up his daughter as soon as he spotted her and hugged her, uncharacteristically gentle and kind. The final member of the group who had come to greet the arrivals was Jiraiya. The legendary Sannin was there for a number of reasons. He had come to greet them. He had come so he could be the first to hear both Naruto's story and his students' talk with the Kazekage, and finally because Anko had told him to get Minato as soon as he got back and bring him to her. Jiraiya shuddered. She was one woman who scared him more than an angry Tsunade. Naruto smiled. Hey guys, he choked out through the bear hug he received from his friends. I'd like you to meet my friend Gaara. Ino looked skeptically at the red-haired boy while Sasuke walked over and shook his hand. Any friend of Naruto's is a friend of mine, Sasuke said before turning back to the blonde. Alright guys, I have got to show you this weapon I got in the sand village. Naruto ran back to the carriage and grabbed the fan which had been tied and placed to the back of the carriage's wooden trunk. I took it with me everywhere in Gaara's village, and I can actually use it pretty well. Ino looked at the beautiful fan closely and gently stroked the metal handle. So pretty, Ino said. Can I try it? Naruto laughed. Do you think you can lift it? He asked politely, but not at all convinced that she could. Ino huffed indignantly before trying to lift it. After a few moments of everyone laughing, she gave up, her face flushed with embarrassment and exasperation. It's too heavy. I bet you can't lift it up, Sasuke, Ino said, glaring at her friend. Sasuke rolled his eyes at the girls and went to pick the fan, which was larger than him. Grr, he said, heaving the fan a foot off the ground. Gra, he shouted, not letting go. The dark-haired boy lifted the heavy fan up for a second before dropping it. The group laughed again, this time at Sasuke's face contortion instead of Ino's failure. Very impressive, Naruto, Itachi said, lifting the fan up easily with his right hand. It is a beautiful weapon as well. The two katanas added in is a very nice touch. Hayashi looked impassively at the group. The Hyugas did not fool around with weapons. You'll have to get yourself a teacher if you wish to learn how to use those katana. Naruto grinned, lifting the weapon onto his back after taking it from Itachi. Jiraiya tapped Minato on the shoulder gently and then whispered into his ear what Enko had told him to say. Minato turned to Naruto, his face a brilliant shade of crimson. Excuse me, son, I have to go. Naruto nodded. That's alright, I'm going to show Gaara around the village. Jiraiya smirked at his student who was running off and then began to mumble. Damn, if some women told me that I would not hesitate to get there, the lucky bastard. Jiraiya grinned, then again with her, maybe I'd be scared as well. After the Hokage left, the Hyugas departed as soon as Hinata had bid her friends farewell. Then, giving his signature grin, began walking off. Lunch is on me. Itachi turned to the Sannin who was watching the children follow the happy blonde. So you decided to hear about his adventure later as well? The old man nodded. Children will be children. It's alright to let Naruto have one more day before we interrogate him to no end. The two laughed. By the way, Itachi, have you heard about a group called the Akatsuki? Itachi hesitated before nodding. They asked me to join their group. Jiraiya nodded wisely, waiting for the boy to continue. At first I felt intrigued and honored, but their plans, they told me what the planned and I couldn't, what they asked me to do I couldn't do it. Of course they have told me either to pretend I know nothing and never interfere with them, or my clan, myself and another person will all be killed. Jiraiya, whatever you suspect of me is not true. I have not betrayed Konoha. Jiraiya nodded. I find that to be true. Unfortunately, you are going to be charged with murder. Itachi flinched. It was no use talking, Jiraiya knew. Jiraiya continued. I have already informed the Hokage. Itachi looked to the ground. I will suffer my punishment, and forgive Konoha, it is what I must do. Don't think too badly of me, my little brothers. Jiraiya frowned. The Hokage and Danza have decided that the reason you killed your cousin had a reason, though not a good one, and against my judgment. They have decided that your punishment will be missions without pay for 1 year, 2 months of community service, and a public apology to your clan. Itachi looked relieved. The community service and apology would be a bitch, but he was not in jail and his clan would provide whatever money he needed. He turned to Jiraiya. The reason my punishment was lightened was because they don't have anyone of my skill level to be an ANBU captain, isn't it? Jiraiya nodded. That was Danza's reasoning. My student's decision was not based on that. You know just as well as I that our Hokage hates those who hurt others when it can be avoided. His reasoning was that you are a great role model for Naruto, and your fondness of the boy has convinced the Hokage you deserve a second chance. Itachi waited. When nothing further was said, he felt he needed to explain to Jiraiya. You know why I killed him. At the time you were afraid that he was going to inform your father of your betrayal to Konoha and he would have executed you right away. As we both know, you aren't on the best of terms with your father. Of course, it would have been better to come clean than make it look like your cousin had committed suicide. Itachi looked at the ground. That's pretty much everything. Jiraiya shook his head. That's what the police think too. However, I want to know why your best friend would have turned you in. Itachi stepped back. There's no possible way Jiraiya found out, had he? The only one who knew that reason besides himself was dead. I want to know, Itachi. Jiraiya's tone was serious and demanding. Itachi did not know how to explain it. Out with it, damn it! Jiraiya knew there was something there, and he wanted to know what. Itachi took a deep breath. The truth is, he overheard the conversation I had with the Akatsuki leader. The leader told me if I wanted to join, I had to show my faith by killing everyone in the clan. I told him I wasn't powerful enough to do it even if I wanted to, and he said all I had to do was acquire the Mangekyo Sharingan by killing my best friend. After we talked, he left, and I walked outside to clear my head. Shursui, irrational at this point in his fear, accused me of betraying our clan and threatened to kill me. Jiraiya realized where this was going. Let me guess, you told him you didn't mean to betray anyone. He wouldn't listen, thinking you were lying, and attacked? Then you fought, and curious about the power you could achieve, killed him. How could you guess the last part? Itachi asked, shame and guilt covering his expression. Perhaps Minato was right to give Itachi a second chance. I guess the boy, though powerful, still has to learn how to handle situation. I need to think about this more, but first I'll have to ask the question. Itachi, you may not be a bad person, but I know you are obsessed with power. That is why you were intrigued by joining the Akatsuki in the first place. Now that I understand the story a bit better, I have a question. Itachi waited, but he already knew what was going to be asked. Did you acquire the Mangekyo Sharingan? I did, was all Itachi said. Jiraiya stroked his chin. Has it given you the power you desire? Itachi wondered what was wrong with himself as he answered the question. Yes. How can I be satisfied? Though he was my best friend and I regret my decision, I don't feel sad. What am I? Jiraiya closed his eyes. He had watched the boy in front of him kill so many times, and each time he seemed to enjoy it. Perhaps he would amend for his sins someday. Itachi, I want to know if when the time comes I can rely on you to put your power to use in protecting Konoha. Will you be able to let go of what you want and help me? Don't answer now, the question I'm asking you is more complicated than you think. Itachi then watched the old man walk off while trying to discover the riddle hidden in his words. Would I let go of what I want to help him? It had been 1 day since Naruto returned to the village. Naruto sat against a large oak tree, his fan next to him, wondering how the large heavy object had got there. His thoughts told the story to him. He had left his house with Gaara an hour before, taking nothing with him, and after the two boys had gotten a mile away from the house, the fan appeared right in front of them in a puff of smoke. After a great deal of confusion, and after they confirmed it was no genjutsu, Naruto put the fan on his back in a holding case he had bought specifically for that purpose. He had kept the carrying case on to get used to the uncomforting feel it had. Naruto, still in great confusion, went down to the park where he planned to meet Ino, Sasuke, and Sakura. Naruto had immediately put the fan down against the tree where his friends were talking. Naruto shook his head, pushing his hair back. He smiled at Ino, who sat down right next to him. So Naruto, Ino began, I heard that you are leaving in a month. Naruto nodded. That seems to be the case. Me and Gaara are going to this training ground to train with the other Kage's children. Ino looked at Gaara, who was playing shogi with Shikamaru. I didn't know Gaara was the son of the Kazekage. Chuji, who had tagged along with Shikamaru, looked at the redhead, impressed. Sakura had not heard any of what was said, too obsessed with Sasuke, who looked bored. Naruto stood scratching his head, still puzzling over the fan. Giving up, he grabbed the weapon and put it back on his back. Anyway guys, we came so you guys could show Gaara around the village. The rest of the group stood up, Shikamaru being the last after completing a final move. So Gaara, what would you like to see first? Naruto asked. Everyone around me is fine with me, Gaara thought. What does it really mean to be a Jinchuriki? The boy shook his head. I don't know. Where do you want to go? Naruto grinned mischievously. Well, personally my favorite place is the ramen shops. So we'll tour you by taking you on the routes to the different shops. Sasuke shook his head, laughing as the rest of the group broke into laughter as well, all save Gaara, who still processed the scene, none of it seeming real. Hours later. Naruto rubbed his swollen stomach sympathetically. You did great out there, he whispered with pride as Sasuke and Shikamaru struggled to carry Chuji, his left arm strung around Sasuke's shoulder, and the chubby boys right around Shikamaru. Gaara stared at Naruto wide-eyed. Naruto, I can't believe you beat that boy in an eating contest, it doesn't make sense. The girls giggled, telling each other jokes and enjoying themselves. Naruto held his head high as he walked toward the Hokage Tower, now less than a quarter of a mile away. It just goes to show you size isn't everything. Well guys, I'm going to take Chuji home, and you have to meet Jiraiya, right Naruto? The stuffed blonde nodded contently. See you guys later. Shikamaru and Sasuke nodded at Naruto, walking off one way as the two girls walking off the opposite way, waving and laughing happily. Naruto grabbed Gaara's arm and pulled him inside. The two kids walked into the Hokage's office, confronted immediately by Jiraiya and Minato. So, Jiraiya asked, are you going to tell us everything with Gaara in the room, or do you want him to leave? Naruto knew immediately what was wanted, but he would not be moved so easily. He can stay. Jiraiya sighed. Fine then, go on. The only extra thing I have to tell you is about a seal that was put in my back when in prison. Naruto stated the information in report form, no emotion getting involved. Minato looked worriedly at the spot where Naruto's fingers lightly graced his back. Minato anxiously walked over to his son and lifted up his shirt to look at the seal. Minato, after a few seconds, pulled the shirt down. Naruto, did they cut your back open? Naruto nodded, wincing, remembering the terrible pain. The handsome man looked intently at Jiraiya. I think we should remove the seal as soon as possible. Jiraiya fixed his eyes on the spot on Naruto's back. For a person to place a seal in Naruto's back, they had to be a highly skilled medic ninja on par with Shizen, Tsunade's assistant. He rubbed his chin, guessing who it might be, but no one came to mind. Turning to his student, he said the only advice he felt he could give. Minato, I can't help you, and you can't do this on your own. Minato looked tensely at Jiraiya. Thinking of going on a trip? Jiraiya nodded, giving his student a grin. Yes, and I'm thinking of taking Naruto with me. Minato sighed. As much as he wanted to go looking for the only medical ninja he would trust his son to, he knew he could not leave his office after the already lengthy amount of time he had left his post. Well, return quickly, please. Jiraiya winked at his student, while Naruto looked at Gaara with a sorrow-filled expression. Minato knew what his teacher's wink meant, and as much as he wanted to chaperone the trip, he knew it wouldn't be possible. Besides, he had to get Naruto ready for the next month in which his son would leave to meet the heirs to the Kages. Well, Naruto, think you can handle another trip? Dad, I can handle another trip, but can Gaara come? Naruto, as bad as he felt for taking Gaara away from a restful stay in Konoha, did not plan on leaving his friend alone. Unbeknownst to Naruto, Gaara did not care if they traveled as long as he was not abandoned. He certainly will. What kind of host would you be to abandon your guest? Jiraiya already was thinking of the hot springs he planned to stay at. We'll leave tomorrow afternoon, take the rest of the day to rest up and pack. Minato exhaled, relieved. At least Jiraiya was not rushing the boys who had only been in the village a day. The next day, Naruto and Gaara awoke, their bags already packed, and Naruto swung his fan onto his back. Let's get breakfast at a ramen place before we meet Jiraiya at the gate, Naruto said to Gaara, who was ready to go. Naruto, how do you know to meet at the gate? Gaara asked. Naruto stopped to think. I don't know, that's just where we always meet before we head out. But don't you have more than one gate leading out of the village? Naruto shook his head. That is weird for a huge village to only one gate. The two were walking out of the house at this point in the conversation. Hello, boys. A man's voice bellowed. Jiraiya? Naruto said in surprise. You came to pick us up here? We were just going to get breakfast. The old man grinned, thinking of the great vacation this was going to make. No, we have to leave as soon as possible. I brought you some food, so eat up. The Sannin demanded, handing each boy a cup of ramen. Jiraiya then led the way out of the village, the boys slurping down the ramen, Gaara doing so much more elegantly than Naruto. After a few hours, Naruto was growing impatient. Hey Jiraiya, when the hell are we gonna get there, and where are we going anyway? Jiraiya sighed. He had expected this. Well, Naruto, probably not for another hour or so, but if you're so impatient, I could teach you something. Also, we're going to visit a teammate of mine, Tsunade, the legendary sucker. He laughed as he said her title. Naruto hesitated. This was a great opportunity for him. Quickly forgetting who they were going to get, he started thinking about training. Like what? Like not to talk unless spoken to, he yelled. Jiraiya was already in a bad mood, having forgotten which way to go, and not sure if they were headed in the right direction. Naruto growled angrily and continued walking moodily. Jiraiya turned back to his new student and sighed, letting his anger go. But I suppose I could teach you the toad summoning technique when we get to our stop. Naruto grinned. That's what he liked to hear. Gaara felt content that he was part of this experience, and he felt something good would come. The three stopped traveling, having reached their destination. The trip had gone smoothly after Jiraiya promised to teach Naruto the summoning technique. The spa they were staying at was a major hotspot, and usually needed to be reserved months in advance for a room. Fortunately for them, the owner was a great friend of Jiraiya and fan of his novels, and gave them 2 rooms on the premise that he would be the first to read Jiraiya's next work. After adjusting to the rooms, Jiraiya met Naruto in his room and took him outside. Naruto, I'm going to show you how to summon toads and then I'm going to do some research and leave you to practice, alright? The Sannin asked, wanting to go quickly. Naruto nodded to Gaara earnestly. Let's go. Jiraiya led the two boys to a deserted spit of land a mile away from the spa and pulled out a kunai from his jacket. He tossed it to Naruto carelessly and bit his thumb. Now watch carefully, he said. Wiping the blood on his palm, the Sannin formed a few hand signs and swung his left arm down, letting the blood on his hand connect with the ground. Both boys watched impressed as a toad a few feet taller than Jiraiya appeared underneath the Sannin. That was cool! Naruto yelled in amazement, and the toad unfurled his tongue carrying the scroll it was holding down to Naruto. Take it! Jiraiya ordered. That scroll has been passed down from generation to generation and is now in my possession. Sign your name in blood on the scroll. Naruto took the kunai and cut his fingers, giving him enough blood to sign his name. Naruto, the seals are the boar, the dog, the bird, the monkey and the sheep. Naruto nodded and copied Jiraiya's motion and slammed his hand into the ground, exerting a large amount of chakra. Jiraiya watched impressed but not at all shocked as a toad larger than the one he had called for appeared. Jiraiya grinned at Naruto, who sat staring at the creature before him. Now I have to go, have fun practicing. Jiraiya, not wanting to wait to get back, used Shun Shinjutsu to sprint to his destination. So what can you, Mr. Toad? Naruto said, not expecting an answer. I'm a battle toad, can you not see the swords on my back? The toad replied. Who are you? Naruto's mouth dropped open a little. You can talk? Of course I can talk. Now who are you? Naruto glanced at Gaara, who had some sand out ready in case the toad tried something funny. My name is Namikaze, Naruto, and I'm a new contractor. So you summoned me first try? Very impressive. The toad said, seeing Naruto nod. Only 2 other ninja have summoned higher than you on your first try. The only ones better being Jiraiya and the other being the very first contractor. Naruto smiled confidently at the toad. Well, I'm going to be the greatest ninja alive. The toad looked at the boy with a certain respect. Well, if you become the greatest ninja alive, then you will certainly be allowed to be a servant to the toad boss. Naruto nearly fell over. Servant? The toad laughed. You don't actually think you be boss's boss, do you? Anyway, I should inform him of the new contractor. See you around, Naruto. Bye, Naruto said to the puff of smoke. He swung around. I suppose we should go back to the spa. Gaara nodded. Yes, the talking toad was rather scary. Naruto laughed. That's not the word I would use, but yeah. Jiraiya giggled to himself as he peeked at girls through an eye hole he had made in the fence. He had an excellent view of some gorgeous girls, including the owner's daughter, who was a real beauty. He turned away and began writing something in a notepad he had with up. After a little while he gave up on writing and just cooled himself in the hot spring, lowering his staggering temperature. Jiraiya got out of the spring and put a robe on just as Naruto was getting in. Gaara was sitting on the edge of the bath's wall, not wanting to get wet. He had taken a shower the day before and he liked to get wet as little as possible. The sand shield protecting him kept him clean, so the shower was only every week or so, and being completely surrounded by water was something he did not want to happen. Jiraiya walked back inside and stepped back inside the inn. He headed to his room and halfway down the hall met with the owner's daughter. Hello, Jiraiya. She greeted him pleasantly. Hello, Yuki. How have you been? The Sannin greeted the woman, who was around the age of 25. It's been years. She smiled at him. I've been alright, but father's been extremely protective over me since mother died. Jiraiya nodded sympathetically. I heard. I'm very sorry for your loss. He opened the door to his room and sat down on the bed next to him. Would you like to come in? She nodded and closed the door behind her. After mother died, father was hesitant to let me leave this place at all. So I have been working here taking care of him. He really has become so cautious and tries all sorts of ways just to keep me from visiting the nearby village. Jiraiya nodded. I remember how close the two of them were. He looked at the woman curiously. She was wearing nothing but a robe as well, and he was wondering what she was planning. It was clear this wasn't just an average conversation. Jiraiya, my father thinks of you as a close friend, so I want to thank you for that. The black-haired beauty untied the strap at her waist, and the robe fell to the floor, revealing a black bra and black lace panties. Jiraiya grinned. She wants to thank me, and afterwards I'll be sure to thank her. He walked over to the door and locked it, and removed his own robe, revealing blue boxers, nothing more. The woman jumped into his arms, gently running her hands along his muscled back and neck. Jiraiya bit her neck, gently, gaining a moan. He was very experienced in these matters. Quickly he undid her bra and, holding her up with his left hand on her ass, he moved his right hand down and gently touched her breast. Jiraiya looked into the beautiful woman's eyes, and that when he saw it and realized she was getting back at her father for not letting her live her life and keeping her by his side. He gently put the girl on the bed and kissed her gently on the cheek. She looked puzzled as he began to put his boxers and then his robe back on. "What are you doing?" she asked, confused. Jiraiya looked at the mostly naked girl with sympathetic eyes full of regret that he hadn't had enough to drink. "All it would have taken to make my night was one drink, and I would not have cared. But your father is a great friend of mine, and I see what's wrong." Part of Jiraiya was punching himself as he passed up such a great opportunity with such a beautiful woman. The woman covered herself as she saw the old man was staring at her. "You are a very beautiful woman, and as much as I'd like to believe you want me for my experience and body, I know that you're trying to get back at your father. If he found out, he'd be enraged that his daughter was acting so promiscuously and force him to abandon our friendship. I'll help with your father, just put your clothes back on before I surrender to my urges." The woman looked at him for a few seconds, astounded, and put her bra and then robe back on. "You figured it out. I've heard that you were a womanizer and a pervert," and she blushed, "a sex god, but I don't know any other man who would have stopped." She walked toward the tired Sannin and kissed him on the cheek as he had done to her. "Thank you, and by the way, I wouldn't have gone that far with any other man." Jiraiya smiled wearily at the girl, and they both exited, heading different ways. Jiraiya glanced once more around the hallway and watched her walk away. She has great curves. By the time Jiraiya had exited from convincing the spa owner to give his daughter a little more freedom, Naruto and Gaara were asleep in their room. Jiraiya had also left out everything that had happened in the room. Jiraiya re-entered the room where Yuki and he had been, and not long before. Too tired to change, he fell asleep almost immediately, his final thoughts reflecting on the chaotic day with Naruto. Naruto awoke the next day feeling great. "Today we'll find Tsunade and then everything will go back to normal," he told Gaara. It was sad how wrong the blonde boy actually was. Naruto and Gaara knocked on Jiraiya's door, and he let them in right away. "Ready to go, guys?" The two nodded and began to head out. Jiraiya, his belongings already packed, had to put the writing he had done that morning in his pack. Quickly stuffing it in an empty pocket, he ran after the boys. The trip to the next village was rather quick, and it was here Jiraiya believed that they would find his teammate. The village, though large, was very connected, and everyone was willing to give information for a price. "All right, boys. I'm going to look for Tsunade in some of the gambling joints around here. Naruto, you guys can wander around a little, but meet back here in 2 hours." He threw Naruto a wad of money and walked off, entering a bar across the street. Naruto paused. "This is a great chance to explore, and if we find Tsunade, we'll be able to go back sooner." Gaara looked at his friend blankly. "What does Tsunade look like?" Naruto smacked his forehead in annoyance. He was about to go after Jiraiya, but the window to the bar had a sign which read "No one under 18. Turning back to Gaara, the blonde shrugged, submitting to the fact they would not find the other Sannin. "Let's just go." The two 8-year-olds walked solemnly through the streets, admiring the stands and chaos in which children ran and played while their parents laughed, watching them from a distance. Naruto and Gaara had walked a few blocks when they saw 8 thugs surrounding 2 women, one obviously drunk and the other yelling at her, pig in hand. Naruto looked at his friend mischievously. "Let's have some fun." Gaara looked at the blonde. "Always helping people," he mumbled in annoyance. Naruto sprinted at the men, 2 of whom turned and faced the boy. Naruto jumped into the air and, stepping on the first man's head, knocking him over, he landed in front of the 2 women. "Don't worry, ladies, I'll get rid of these thugs." The men growled angrily at the boy. "Boy, I'd get out of here before you get hurt along with those thieves." Naruto smirked. "We'll see." Forming hand seals at an incredible speed, he finished preparing the jutsu and shot a powerful wind at the men, which he had learned in Gaara's village, and knocked all the men back. Hiruzen looked at the boy, astounded at the skills such a young boy possessed. Naruto waited for the men to get up before dropping the heavy fan off his back. The fan landed with a thud and the metal handle stabbed into the ground. "Now that I can move a little faster, let's speed this up." Naruto hit the first man before he saw the boy reach him. He spun and kicked the man who was approaching his back and flipped over another brute who tried to sneak up on him. Naruto then slammed his fist into the thug's face as it turned to him, knocking him out cold. Only 3 men were still standing. They were the biggest and the strongest as well as the most experienced. Naruto smiled, seeing all their battle scars. "Let's go." The boy charged the men who waited for him. Naruto attempted to kick the thug closest to him in the head, but the man blocked the kick with his arm and knocked the blonde into the dirt. I got cocky there, better not do it again. Those guys might not be ninjas, but they are still extremely strong. The blonde took a second to glance at the man's biceps, which were thicker than his head. He ran at the man again, and this time punched the man's stomach, not holding back and then kicking his feet out from under him. Gaara watched the fighting in amusement, not worried at all, though he was protective of his friend. These people he knew were no threat. Naruto looked at the two who were left. They both moved toward him at the same time. The blonde jumped into the air as soon as they were within a foot of him, and rapidly formed more hand signs. See ya guys, Katan, enveloping flames. Naruto's hands covered his mouth as he built up chakra. A second later he uncovered his mouth and sprayed flames, covering the men below him. He landed next to the men who were now unconscious. You're okay now, Naruto told the two women. The drunken woman laughed at the boy and threw a sake bottle at him, which Gaara caught with his sand and gently put on the ground. Hey! Naruto yelled angrily, who are you to throw something at someone who just saved you? You saved me? The drunken lady laughed. You saved me, Tsunade the Sannin? I think not. Tsunade draped her arms along Shizen, her assistant, and hung on as her legs bucked under her. Naruto did not know what to think. This woman couldn't be a legendary Sannin. Could she? He walked up to the woman who was holding Tsunade. Is she a legendary Sannin? The young woman sighed. She is. Naruto shook his head at her, his wavy blonde hair shaking with him. I refuse to believe this woman who doesn't look old to be a Sannin. There's no way she could have been on Jiraiya's team, and no person as respected as a Sannin would be like this. He pointed at Tsunade in disgust. Hey brat, watch who you talk about like that, I might just knock your teeth out. Shizen, feeling tense, decided to clear up all the questions. She uses a jutsu to make herself look young, and though she can be irresponsible, she's very powerful. Now, who may I ask are you? Namikaze, Naruto. The boy answered just as Jiraiya dropped in on them. The long-haired Sannin ruffled the boy's hair affectionately. I see you've already found my old teammate. Nice work. I also see you've introduced yourself, so I asked you Tsunade for a favor. Tsunade sent him a vicious glare. Yeah, what do you want, and why have you been looking for me? Jiraiya, seeing her bad mood, sighed. Good to see you too. He sighed again. Let me buy you a drink. She smiled. At least you know how to go about asking favor. Shizen paled. I really don't think it would be wise to give her anything more to drink. Don't worry about it. Jiraiya said, his arm draped around Tsunade's shoulder, leading her to the bar. So Naruto was left with Shizen and Gaara, both of whom seemed to be uncomfortable. Tsunade, Naruto was kidnapped by the Rock, and we think the Rock had a medic as talented or nearly as talented as you. Put a seal in his back, but we can't see it without getting into his back. And you need me to do it. The female Sannin concluded, hiccuping and then downing another glass. That sums it up. What do you say? No. What do you mean, no? Jiraiya roared, gaining stares from everyone in the bar. Jiraiya, I see that he's talented, and since he's your student you're protective of him, but I cut ties with the village long ago, and helping you would be a symbol of my alliance. Jiraiya shook his head, not believing what he was hearing. The boy is a prodigy. He escaped from the Rock's toughest prison by himself while carrying a Hyuga. He's just as good as the fourth was at his age, possibly even better. How can you say no? Tsunade looked into her drink blankly. Hey, he sounded cocky out there, at least he has a right to be. Jiraiya shook his head. He didn't want to do this, but he had to pull out his trump card. You don't know what he's like. If you did, he'd remind you of your brother. Tsunade winced. Her brother had loved Konoha passionately, and had given his life for the village. Perhaps if this boy was willing to do the same, she could at least help him. Jiraiya, I'll come back to Konoha with you, but if he's not as you say, I swear I'll never talk to you again. Jiraiya gulped. Fair enough. He stood up. Naruto, don't screw this up, for your sake as well as mine. Naruto was walking back to Konoha with Jiraiya, Gaara, Shizen, and Tsunade, and to be honest, he was curious about the female Sannin. He was walking next to her, flanked on his left side by Gaara, his arms on the back of his head and glancing at her every now and then. She doesn't look that tough, Naruto thought. Tsunade turned to him. So kid, I hear you're strong, but from what I saw yesterday you're only average. Naruto growled, controlling his anger. Tsunade smiled, seeing that her plan was working. She was going to prove to Jiraiya the boy was nothing like her brother or Dan. Well, that's great, kid. Your father must be doing a shitty job of training you. Naruto glared at her. She had gone too far. For your information, old lady, my dad is awesome and I will be the strongest ninja ever and then I will become Hokage. Jiraiya smiled. Perfect. Tsunade stopped. It was just like him the way he said it. Jiraiya hadn't lied. Well, Naruto, then I guess you are sort of strong, but strength isn't the only thing that gives you power. So we'll see what you become. Naruto turned his head in indifference. No one talked until they had arrived. Once reaching the gate, they headed straight to the Hokage's tower where they found Minato at work. Hey, Dad! Naruto shouted, dropping his fan on the floor and running over and hugging his father. Minato hugged Naruto tightly for a second but quickly turned his attention to the discussion which was about to begin. Hello, Tsunade-sama. The woman hugged him affectionately. You're as handsome as ever, Minato. Jiraiya turned and leaned against the wall. Traitorous student bastard, he grumbled. So you've agreed to examine Naruto? The Hokage asked, making sure she knew what she was going to do. She nodded and grabbed Naruto. Lay down on your stomach on the couch, but first take your shirt off. A little shocked at first, she moved to examine the boy's back. She had never thought she would see an 8-year-old with a six-pack. Focusing chakra to her hands, which began to glow green, she put Naruto to sleep. Not hesitating, she moved to the spot where the boy's back had been cut. Impressive, the medic only left a thin scar for such a large cut. It wouldn't be easy for me to do that. She moved on and cut the boy's back exactly where the originally cut had been. After taking one look at the boy's back, she turned away in disgust. What's the matter? Jiraiya asked, grabbing the woman's hand, trying to help her get a grip. She slowly calmed herself. So much blood, and the medic so cruel. She looked again at Naruto's back. The medic who first operated on him cut the muscle and placed a seal, perhaps more. The first problem is the medic cut the muscle and tendon and placed seals underneath, and then reattached everything he cut, and then again reattached the skin tissue. Hiruzen put her hand to her mouth in horror, understanding, but no one else did. So will Naruto be alright? Gaara asked. Tsunade looked at him intently for a second. No one had realized he was still in the room. Yes, now please leave the room, kid. Gaara months ago would not have left, but now he did for Naruto's sake. After seeing the redhead was gone, Tsunade turned back to the two men. The thing you have to understand is that once you cut muscles and tendons, which you have to do perfectly accurately, you must reattach it within half an hour or it will become permanently damaged. Minato cursed. So what you're saying is that when you cut everything, I'll only have half an hour to remove the seal or seals? The two women nodded. Jiraiya shook his head. That's impossible, and even if you could do most of it, unless you dismiss the whole seal before she ties everything back up, you'll have to start over the next time. The Hokage nodded. But the medic might not have been a seal expert, and put in a simple seal. Tsunade let out a deep breath. We can at least try. The Hokage nodded determinedly and let the medical expert get to work. After 10 minutes, Tsunade finished. Alright, Minato, you're up. I'll let you know when I need to reattach everything. Minato walked over and examined the seal as Hiruzen worked next to him to stop the blood from covering up the seal by slowing his heart rate. Yes. Thank Kami. This seal is so simple it will only take me a minute. Then his confidence and relief left him. He gently moved some flesh aside to look down and see what was underneath the seal. And then it hit him. Oh no. He whispered, his head falling and his hands moving to cover his eyes. He moved away and Jiraiya quickly took his place. What's the matter? He asked, looking at the seal before he realized it as well. Tsunade, you can reattach everything. Tsunade did so, this time with the help of Hiruzen. After finishing, she wiped her hands with a towel and faced the men who sat on the couch. What's wrong? There are 2 seals in his back, the men said in unison. Jiraiya continued as his student was too upset. The first seal can't be activated and had only one purpose: to explode if it is removed. It's called a guarding seal. It is usually used to kill people who aren't good with seals and don't know everything they're doing and try to disarm it, and they had one more purpose. The second purpose is to be attached to other seals. Usually this isn't a problem because 2 of these types of seals, if near each other, will explode. Tsunade nodded hesitantly. Could you give me an example? Jiraiya nodded. Here's one. You've placed a seal on a door to make it go back together whenever broken, and you put a guarding seal over it so no one will touch it. If the guarding seal is touched in any way by something it feels is trying to get rid of it, it will explode. Tsunade nodded. But you could just cut through the door and disable the seal that makes the door fix itself on the side that doesn't have a guarding seal on it, right? Exactly, but you can't cut through Naruto's front. Tsunade sighed. So the seal can't be removed without blowing up Naruto. Jiraiya shook his head solemnly. No, it can't be removed, and the only way to see what the other seal says is to get rid of the guarding seal, and we can't do that. So we will never been able to remove the seal. Whoever did this is extremely skilled and must have planned for weeks. Hiruzen looked desperately at Minato, who had just spoken. But you're the greatest seal master of all time, you have to be able to get rid of it. The Hokage groaned. Seal masters can create brilliant seals, but even we can't destroy this without killing Naruto as well. There's no way to cancel out the seal? Hiruzen asked, not believing that there was no hope. Well, not now. I suppose it might be possible to make one, but in order to create such a seal I'd have to abandon my position as Hokage. The group sat in silence for a while before Hiruzen spoke again. Then why don't we just keep Naruto away from ninjas of the Rock Village? Easier said than done, Jiraiya stated. Tsunade nodded. Well, I suppose that's everything. I guess we should wake Naruto up. Minato sat up, and from now on whenever I'm free I'll work on the seal. Tsunade walked over to Naruto and put the cut back together neater than they had already done until there was only a slight scar. After making sure all his vital signs were clear and wiping the blood off his back, she woke him up. Naruto stretched and rolled his shoulder. So is everything all right now? The four adults looked at each other awkwardly. Not exactly, Naruto, Jiraiya said, but we're working on it. Naruto grinned. Well, can I go? Sure thing, Naruto, Jiraiya said, approving the boy's request. Naruto quickly put on his shirt and didn't bother to grab his fan, figuring it would show up as soon as he got far enough away. Naruto found Gaara and the two headed down to the park, where sure enough the fan appeared at Naruto's feet. What the hell was that? Ino yelled as the fan appeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto laughed. It's my fan. How are you guys doing? Shikamaru waved at him, as did Chuji. Sakura and Sasuke weren't there, but Hinata was, and she timidly waved. Ino looked at the fan closely. Did you make it come here? Nope, Naruto said proudly, it does that on its own. He turned to Hinata. It's good to see you out with everyone, Hinata. The girl smiled. Thank you, Naruto-kun. I heard from father that you found Jiraiya's teammate Tsunade. So that's where you were, Ino interrupted. Naruto rubbed the back of his head guiltily. Yeah, I guess I forgot to tell you that. The month wore on with Naruto training with Jiraiya, Itachi, Gaara and Sasuke, as well as being with his friends before the day arrived when Naruto and Gaara were going to go to Tea Country, where they would live and train with the children of the other Kages. Bye, Sasuke. Naruto waved to his friend, who was mad he wasn't going. Naruto grinned. This was going to be an awesome trip. He looked at Ino, who was sulking next to the carriage. Don't be sad, Ino, I'll be back soon, Naruto said, trying to cheer her up. Ino hugged him tightly before wiping her eyes and nodding. See ya, Naruto, Shikamaru said, waving to the blonde. Bring me back some interesting food, Chuji shouted, waving both his hands over his head in glee, thinking of all that food. Naruto laughed and waved back at them. His fan already on top of the carriage along with his bags full of clothes and other supplies, the blonde hopped into the large carriage that could accompany 8 people. The carriage was necessary because not only Naruto, Gaara and Jiraiya were going to Tea Country, but the fourth as well, and Itachi as his bodyguard. The fourth and Itachi were going for the opening ceremony in which all the Kages would greet each other. The trip was fun for Naruto, and everyone in the group enjoyed seeing Gaara open up even more than he had already at his stay in Konoha. The trip took 2 days at a leisure and comfortable pace, and when the carriage reached its destination, Naruto was the first out. Finally I can train again. I was going crazy in there. The adults laughed at the child's antics, enjoying themselves. All took the trip to be a vacation. Naruto and Gaara looked around. They had to admit the place they were in was extremely beautiful, with lush fields and a light breeze. The view they had was exquisite, being on the top of a huge hill overlooking the sparsely potted houses which dotted the map. Wow, that's awesome. What do you think, Gaara? Naruto asked his friend, not looking away from the beautiful landscape. I've never seen anything like it, the red-haired boy replied, more in awe than Naruto. The two were interrupted by a yell from Jiraiya. What the hell do you mean I'm staying here? I mean, I probably wouldn't have objected, but you didn't tell me I was staying. I would have packed, and I already packed for you, Minato said, trying to calm his teacher down. Besides, the Tea Country is known for having some of the most beautiful women in the world. Just enjoy yourself, please. Jiraiya growled angrily and folded his arms in annoyance. The things the kid does to me. Simply astounding. Hey guys. Naruto interrupted, can we go see that? He pointed to a mansion on the very tip of the hill, only a ways off. Minato grinned. Naruto, that's where you're staying. Naruto's mouth dropped agape. Awesome. Then why didn't the carriage pull us up there? Gaara asked, taking everything in. Itachi nodded, also curious. The reason the carriage didn't take us there is because we're early, so I figure we should enjoy the beauty of this country and walk there. Minato began. No sooner had he said that than Naruto challenged the rest of them to a race in which everyone flew off, leaving the Hokage in the dust. Naruto arrived first at the giant door which opened to the mansion. He looked up to the top of the mansion, which was even bigger than he thought. He knocked loudly, hoping someone would hear him. The rest of the group arrived as well, and the Hokage right after them. Hey guys, I don't think anyone can hear us, Naruto said, only to be interrupted as the huge doors began to open. Hello? A man's voice greeted them as they entered through the huge doors, and welcome to your home for the next few months. The Hokage's eyes widened, impressed by the inner beauty of the mansion. It truly is a beautiful place. Yes, it belonged to a rich tea daimyo years ago, but it has been left abandoned and used for parties and such. It is too expensive for most people to keep up. Jiraiya grunted, yeah, and who the heck needs all this anyway? The man grinned, precisely. Anyway, I am the caretaker for the house. You are the third party to arrive. The others are in the meeting hall, which is straight through those doors. The caretaker pointed the opposite way they had come in, and the group continued walking straight, past the two staircases and into the meeting hall. The room they entered was large and held 3 massive tables for dining. One group of people sat in the far end of the room silently, and another chatting, relaxed, to the right of Naruto and his group. The one to the right got up seeing Konoha's entrance, and moved to greet them. Jiraiya immediately took a step back in shock. Hanzo, he whispered to Minato as he tried to regain his composure. Well, I see you've survived, Sannin, the leader of Amigakure stated. I can't believe you actually came out of hiding, Jiraiya stated, knowing not to shake hands with the great ninja who distrusted everyone. Surprisingly, the leader offered his hand to Jiraiya. It has been a long time, and I am glad that your Hokage can keep his wars in his enemy's land and out of mine. The Hokage offered his hand as well, which the leader took. It's a pleasure to meet a ninja as renowned as yourself, the Hokage said. He had heard much about the man who had defeated Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru, and in respect given them the title of Sannin. And I feel safe with the strongest ninja in the world. Hanzo laughed at ease. You asked me why I came out of hiding? He asked Jiraiya. Well, it's because this is one place I feel completely at ease. What fool would attack a place with the greatest ninja in the world altogether? Minato laughed. I can't help but agree. Hanzo turned to Naruto and Gaara. Are these your sons? He asked politely. Minato and Jiraiya laughed again before the Hokage spoke. Naruto is my son, he said, ruffling his mini-self's hair, and Gaara is Naruto's friend, the son of the Kazekage who was staying in Konoha for a month. Hanzo smiled at the boys, both a little intimidated by the 4 bodyguards that stood 2 on either side of the rain leader. I had heard the 2 of you started this thing, you and the Kazekage, but I hadn't guessed the reason. He paused for a second before speaking again. Though now old and wrinkled, everyone could see the man had been handsome in his youth and most likely a great speaker. If this works and the countries can be at peace, you will have my thanks,